The next day, Leo called in sick to all his classes. With a free schedule, he showed up early under Sophia Sue's dorm building, a bag of breakfast in hand. As soon as Sophia saw him from her window, she threw herself together and rushed downstairs. "Don't you have class this morning?" she asked. Leo held up his hands in a gesture of surrender. "I told my professor the atmosphere pressure was off, not conducive to learning." He grinned. "So, I took the day off?" Sophia let out a laugh. Only Leo could come up with an excuse like that. "So what are you planning to do?" "My point was that it's not a good day for my classes," Leo clarified. "It is, however, a perfect day to follow you around and crash yours." He added, "By the way, your professors don't do cold calls, do they?" "I'm not in your major. I won't know a thing. If they do, I'm out." A sly look crept into Sophia's eyes. They'd never. The University of Oregon schedule was much more packed than the business schools. The entire morning was filled with back-to-back classes. Leo was true to his word, dutifully following Sophia from one lecture hall to another. He was so quiet and well-behaved that Sophia started to find it strange. During their last class of the morning, she leaned over and whispered, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Leo thought for a moment before answering. The TV crew went to the farm to start filming. "I was thinking of heading over to check on things." Sophia clearly didn't believe that was the whole story, but she didn't press him. Instead, she slipped her hand under the desk and took his. "Sometimes," she said softly, "you can't overthink things." Leo blinked, then decided to come clean. "Okay, fine. The truth is, I was thinking about disappearing for a while, just to see if you'd get that panicked feeling of not being able to find me." The moment he said it, he felt her hand tremble. "I would," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "I really would." She squeezed his hand harder. "If that's really what you want to do. Where are you going? I'll go with you. Anywhere." A jolt went through Leo, and for a second, his eyes stung. He was about to reply when a booming voice echoed from the front of the lecture hall. "You two in the back row," the professor yelled. "What are you whispering about during my lecture?" "You the boy." "Yes, you." Leo and Sophia were the only two people in the last row. "Stand up and tell the class about the different compression standards within the MPEG series and their respective applications." Leo stood up, completely baffled. The rest of the class erupted in laughter at the sight of this unfamiliar face. Unfazed, Sophia calmly opened her notebook and slid it in front of him. The answer was right there. He just had to read it. "There's." After he'd recited the answer, the professor adjusted his glasses. "All right, sit down. No more talking in class." Leo sat, the flicker of emotion from a moment ago completely extinguished. So much for no cold calls. Sophia covered her mouth to hide her smile. She didn't make another sound, but she refused to let go of his hand, as if afraid he'd vanish the moment he did. When class ended, a few of Sophia's roommates came over. "Hey, hot stuff. How was Professor Thompson's class?" "Exciting, right?" "Exciting doesn't even cover it," Leo said. "I'm never coming back." They giggled, waving goodbye. "Okay, we won't keep you. We're heading out. Bye." "Bye." As they walked out of the classroom, they saw Sophia wasn't following. They huddled together, whispering, "The more I look at him, the more I'm sure he's the one who carried that pretty girl last night." "Me, too." "You think Sophia saw it? Why is she pretending not to know?" "Who knows?" Poor Sophia. I feel so bad for her." Back in the classroom, nearly everyone had left, but Sophia still hadn't let go of his hand. She just stared at him, her eyes filled with a nervous energy. Leo felt her tension. He reached out, gently ruffling her hair, and softened his voice. "How about this? We both take a few days off and go check it out together." Hearing this, Sophia finally relaxed, a wave of relief washing over her. "Okay," she added, her voice firm, "and remember, don't you dare let me not be able to find you. I really freak out." She bit her lip, not a hint of a joke in her expression. Sophia really knew how to heal him. "Hey, I won't," Leo said gently. "Never," he continued. "And listen, for this trip, let's not tell anyone. Just a quiet little world for the two of us." Sophia nodded eagerly. "Don't worry, I get it. When do we leave?" Leo thought for a moment. "Tomorrow. I have to take care of a few things today." Sophia had no objections. After having lunch with Leo in the cafeteria, she went to talk to her professors about taking a few days off. Leo, meanwhile, hailed a cab outside the campus and headed to the Rush Sportswear offices to see Laureen. The plans for the investment company were already in motion. Since he hadn't found a suitor yet, he'd put Laura in charge for the time being and had given her a simple investment plan. "I'm going to be gone for a few days," he told her. "Don't call me unless it's an emergency. I hope that by the time I get back, we'll have secured that plot of land. And remember to contact the construction companies. Haggle them down as low as you can. Listening to Leo's directives, Laura felt her head spin. She wanted to quit on the spot, but then she remembered she'd probably never find another boss with his vision and generosity. She swallowed her frustration, but couldn't resist a complaint. "Boss, I'm only human, you know." Leo put on an innocent expression. "I've always thought of you as my amazing big sister. Come on, work hard, make me some money. When you get married, I'll help pay for a killer wedding." Even though she knew he was just dangling a carrot, Laura felt a flicker of genuine appreciation. "Fine," she sighed. "I guess I'm destined to work myself to the bone for you. Leo smiled, then a thought struck him. "By the way, what about Mr. Ray? You got rid of him, right?" Mr. Ray was the manager who had tried to abuse his position during the sponsorship deal with the business school. "We gave him a severance package and let him go," Laura said, "mainly to keep some of the higher-ups happy and avoid a mess." Leo nodded. He understood. After settling things at Rush, Leo went to the Galaxy Gaming Lounge. He learned from Spike that since the vendors had been cleared out, life in the Mill District had gotten tougher for the residents. When Kalyan had gone around asking if they'd be willing to accept a redevelopment plan, everyone had agreed. Many were even willing to pay a fee for a designated spot to set up their stalls again. Leo told him to let the vendors know they needed to wait another 2 months, and he'd arrange a much better place for them. With that problem temporarily solved, the next step was bidding for the construction contract. That could wait. The city hadn't even finalized the renovation plans yet. Later that afternoon, Leo stood outside Chloe John's classroom with a bouquet of flowers, waiting patiently for her to emerge. Chloe looked as beautiful as ever, though her eyes were a little red and swollen, as if she hadn't slept well. "What are you doing here?" she asked, a spark of pleasant surprise in her eyes at the sight of him and the flowers. Then, after a moment, she asked uncertainly, "Just one bouquet this time?" Leo smiled. "This one's just for you." He didn't linger on the topic. "I took a few days off. I have to go out of town." He looked at her seriously. "While I'm gone, you need to go to class, eat properly, and take care of yourself, okay?" Chloe's head shot up. She saw the complicated look in Leo's eyes and felt a sudden pang of panic. "Where are you going?" A faint smile touched Leo's lips. "Just to take care of some business. I should be back soon." Chloe's brow furrowed, and she bit her lip. "How soon is soon?" 3 to 5 days if I'm fast. Maybe a week if I'm slow," Leo said casually. "Are you going alone?" Leo paused for a beat. "Well, yeah. Who else?" He didn't give her a chance to ask anything else. "Okay, I've got to go. Still need to pack." He gave her a small wave, signaling for her to go back to class. Chloe felt like something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. All she knew was that she didn't want him to go. She couldn't bear the thought of it. She stood there frozen, watching his back as he walked away. Just as he was about to disappear around the corner of the hallway, she suddenly ran after him. She wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. Startled, Leo tensed up, then relaxed as he recognized her familiar scent. "Hey, taking advantage of me in public? Is that appropriate?" "I don't care. I just don't," Chloe said, her tone as proud and stubborn as ever. "Come back soon, okay? I'll be waiting for you." Leo took her hands in his and turned to face her. "It's just a few days. Don't make it sound like we're saying goodbye forever." Chloe shook her head. "I don't even want you gone for a day." Leo saw the dependency in her eyes. In this unfamiliar city, she had come to see him as her only anchor. And now, that anchor was leaving. This time, Leo didn't hesitate. He comforted her gently. "It's okay. We'll have plenty of time together in the future." Chloe finally loosened her grip and nodded. "Okay," but she still had to add, "Remember to call me every day." Leo gave her an okay sign and walked away without looking back. The 718 Express was buzzing with activity. Shane and Mark were grilling Chad, asking him if he'd lost anything precious over fall break. Everyone knew he hadn't gone home or stayed in the dorm. They also knew a tall girl was involved. The nearly 6'3" gentle giant was actually blushing, which only made Shane and Mark tease him more relentlessly. It wasn't until Leo walked in that they toned it down a little. Seeing him packing a bag, Mark asked, "Leo, you heading out?" Leo shrugged. "Hanging out with you guys all the time is making me think I'm a single loser, too. I need to get away, clear my head." Shane and Mark exchanged a pained look. Before college, they'd had such high hopes, especially about finding that perfect, sweet college romance. But over a month had passed, and they were still single. A few girls had shown interest in Shane, but he'd completely ignored them. The ones he liked, he couldn't get. The ones who liked him, he wasn't interested in. It was a tough spot. "By the way," Leo asked, "have you been in touch with Yvonne Yuan at all?" At the mention of Yvonne, Shane's eyes lit up, but they quickly dimmed. He sighed. "Her AIM profile has been offline forever." Leo shook his head. "A lost cause. And after that deeply emotional performance he'd put on for Shane's sake. He walked over and patted him on the shoulder. In a little while, I'll get in touch with Chloe's dorm, and we'll all go out for karaoke. Good luck. Oh, and while I'm gone, you're in charge of the convenience store, Leo said. Okay, Shane said quickly. We've already got reps in most of the dorms. All we have to do is stock up. Mark chimed in. Joel Hill is getting the residential life committee to help us promote it, too. The response has been great. We're really going to make it big. Leo shot him a look of disdain. You're satisfied with this? You need to be calm. You're going to be a man who makes real money someday. Mark rubbed the back of his head, embarrassed. His background meant his perspective was even more limited than Shane's, let alone Leo's. But his roommates never looked down on him for it. In fact, they loved having him around. After all, who wouldn't want a roommate who volunteered to clean the room every day, even if he was the one making most of the mess, especially with all the tissues? After one more night in the dorm, Leo left early the next morning with a travel bag slung over his shoulder. Sophia was already waiting for him at the entrance to the University of Oregon campus. In a silent show of harmony, she was carrying the exact same model of bag as him. He had no idea when she'd bought it. While waiting, she had bought a couple of corn cakes from a street vendor. I talked to Kat, she said. She's arranging for someone to pick us up at the Riverbend train station. Katie's reality show was scheduled for a week of filming at the farm. It wasn't just about the show itself. It was also a major product promotion. In Leo's words, it was a giant infomercial. But back then, you couldn't just drop a link in a chat. You had to work through distributors. When Kat learned Leo and Sophia were coming, she was surprised but didn't ask any questions, immediately arranging for their pickup. Leo nodded to show he understood and took the breakfast Sophia handed him. He ate as he flagged down a cab to the station. Unlike the last time, when he had trailed behind them alone, feeling awkward and unsure what to do with his hands, this time his hands were quite comfortable. After they boarded the Amtrak, Leo saw 3 middle-aged women sitting across from them and was suddenly reminded of the cute girl from the train whose AIM screen name he'd forgotten to add. It was 6 digits, easy to remember, but he just couldn't recall it. What a shame, he muttered. Unfortunately, Sophia heard him. A shame about what? Leo looked at the headphones in her ears, completely baffled. She could hear that. As if sensing his confusion, Sophia took one earbud out and placed it in his ear. The previous song had just ended, and the opening melody of a new one was starting. Heard the sound of winter leaving, woke up one day and started breathing. I thought, I'll wait, I'll hope, I'll find, but the future can't be so designed. A cloudy day, a window pane, someone's waiting in the rain. Ah, meet cute by the postcards, Leo said casually as he listened. A classic. Sophia looked at him. This song just came out. How is it already a classic? Leo went silent. Sophia didn't press. She slowly leaned her head against his shoulder. I see the road ahead, she whispered, her voice soft. The doorway to my dreams feels small. I met you then, and I just hope it's not the most beautiful mistake of all. After a moment of silence, she asked again, you still haven't told me what was a shame. Leo feigned confusion. Did I say something? I don't think so. Sophia didn't call him out on it. She just held his arm tighter and rested against him. In life, you meet so many people, and you say goodbye so many times, she said quietly. You never know if this goodbye will be the last one. So, you have to cherish every encounter. Leo turned his head sharply to look at her. Is that a hint, or are you just telling me? Sophia blinked playfully. I'm just cherishing the time when you're here. Hearing her words, the last of Leo's gloominess vanished. She was right. You couldn't let yourself get bogged down by worries. All you could do was cherish the present. Being with Sophia was just so comfortable. When the train arrived, Leo took Sophia's hand and they found the TV cruise van. Kat had already spoken to the driver, who greeted them with exceptional warmth. Should we head straight there, or do you want to wait? Let's wait a bit, Leo said. Could you take us to Riverbend General Hospital first, please? Of course. The driver nodded and started the car. Leo, are you going to see your mom first? Sophia asked, sitting next to him in the back seat. Yeah, I'm back, so I should at least say hi. Otherwise, who knows how long I'll get an earful for it. He paused. And hey, do you two talk on the phone often? Sophia blinked. Well, not that often. When was the last time you spoke? Sophia quickly turned her head away and said nothing. The driver navigated the streets smoothly, the hospital in no time. Leo got out and headed straight for Helen White's office. At the door, he pulled a surgical mask over his face, then knocked. Is Dr. White in? He asked, his voice muffled. Come in. Hearing her voice, Leo entered with his head down. Helen stared at him for a moment, then shot up from her chair. She marched over and grabbed him by the ear. What did you do this time? Did you get expelled? And you're wearing a mask? Too ashamed to show your face. Leo sucked in a sharp breath. Easy. Am I even your biological son? Helen chuckled and let go. Of course not. We found you in a dumpster. Leo quickly backed away, eyeing her warily. Last time you said I popped out of a rock. Helen rolled her eyes, not bothering to argue. Why are you back? Don't tell me you really got expelled. Who do you take me for? Leo shook his head repeatedly. I just suddenly missed you, so I came back to see you. Helen didn't buy it. The son who didn't even show up during fall break suddenly missed her? Then you got her heart broken? She knew him too well. Whenever he needed comforting, he'd find some excuse to come see her. He wouldn't say anything, just sit by her side, and after a while, he'd be fine. Was she wrong this time? What are you talking about? It was Sophia who missed you, Leo said, then turned and shouted toward the door. What are you waiting for? Get in here. Blushing slightly, Sophia stepped inside. Hello, Helen. Helen was stunned. She looked at Leo, then at Sophia, completely baffled by the situation. Still, she quickly recovered and welcomed Sophia warmly. Why didn't you say you were coming? Come, sit down, sit down. As she spoke, she bustled over to get them some water. Sophia felt a little embarrassed, waving her hands. Oh no, you don't have to. We're leaving soon. We were just passing by, and Leo said he missed you, so we came to say hi. Helen pretended not to hear. She poured a cup of water from the cooler and handed it to Sophia. Then she grabbed another cup and tossed it to Leo. Get it yourself. Leo could see the look on his mother's face. She was annoyed he hadn't given her a heads up. These surprise visits were hard on her heart. But Leo just shrugged. Mom, a TV crew is heading to the farm to do a promotion, and we need to get there. We have to leave right away. Helen knew about the farm. She looked at her son and sighed. Her boy was all grown up, with his own business now. At least he still remembered he had a mother, and he even knew to bring a girl home for her to see. Seeing they were genuinely in a hurry, Helen didn't keep them. She gave them a few quick words of advice and sent them on their way. The moment they left her office, Helen pulled out her phone and called David White. David, Leo just brought Sophia to see me. What do you think he's up to? Wasn't he with Chloe during the holiday? After leaving the hospital, Leo started grumbling as they walked. You have to understand, middle-aged women can be a bit chatty. Sophia just burst out laughing. I'll try to control myself in the future. She had been a little taken aback by Leo suddenly bringing her to see his mother, but more than that, she was happy. Though only 18, she was far more mature than most girls her age, her thoughts more delicate. Leo saw through her, but didn't say a word. She told herself to cherish the present and not worry too much. So, he would reassure her by showing her that his mother liked her too. Different women required different tactics. Back in the van, Sophia was much more cheerful, finding all sorts of topics to chat with Leo about. The hours-long drive suddenly didn't feel tiring at all. When they arrived at the farm, it was much livelier than before. The arrival of the television crew had drawn crowds from several neighboring villages, all eager to watch the spectacle. Kevin Lou knew Leo was coming and had been waiting at the village entrance. He walked up as soon as Leo got out of the van. Don't you ever get tired of running around? You came all this way again. Leo threw up his hands. What? You got a problem with that? If you do, shut up. Kevin huffed and turned his head away. For the sake of his creditor, he'd hold his tongue for now. Just then, Nyo came running over. Compared to the last time they'd met, her face was much cleaner, and she was wearing new clothes. The moment she saw Leo, she threw herself at him for a hug. Nyo. Cheryl Zhou, who was following behind, called out with a slight scolding tone. But by then, Leo had already lifted the little girl into his arms. Nyo, you still remember me? Of course. My brother and sister said you're a good person. I remember. Sophia stood by, covering her mouth to stifle a laugh. This little girl was quite the charmer. Nyo is such a good girl, Leo said with a smile. By the way, what grade are you in now? Nyo counted on her fingers. First grade. The school is right over there. She pointed to a nearby building. The village school was old, a 4-story structure that was the tallest building in the area. First grade, huh? That's impressive, Leo said, then added, since you're so smart, how about your big brother gives you some workbooks? You got to get a head start on the competition. Hearing the word give, Nyo's face lit up even more. Okay. Nyo was happy, and so was Leo. He turned to Kevin. Is the school principal around? Tell him I want to donate a library to the school. My only condition is that after school, all the students have to stay inside for 40 minutes before they can go home. He shook his head. I just can't stand to see them so idle. Leo, what are you doing here? Just as Leo and Kevin were discussing the library plan, Andy Zhao walked over, a look of pleasant surprise on his face. Though they had only met once, Andy owed his current success entirely to Leo. If it weren't for him, he never would have caught Cat He's eye and gotten his big break. Leo honestly didn't recognize him at first. It took him a long moment to place the face. Andy, he asked, still uncertain. The first time he'd seen Andy was in Julie and John's studio. Back then, heartbroken over a breakup, he'd been a disheveled, listless mess. Later, when they went out to eat, they'd run into Cat He. Indulging her own wicked sense of humor, Cat had hired both Andy and his ex-girlfriend. Seeing him now, he was a completely different person. A genuinely handsome guy. Where's your cat? That was the first thing Leo thought of when he saw him. The cat named Ice Cream. Andy smiled sheepishly. Left her at home. My parents are looking after her. He grinned at Leo. Are you here to be on the show, too? Nah, just here to watch, Leo replied, then added, You do a good job, you hear? Especially when you're promoting the Cheryl's brand. He gave Andy an encouraging look. Andy was a little confused, but remembering that Leo was a man of considerable influence, he figured it must be some kind of hint. Was the Cheryl's brand his next big opportunity? Realizing this, Andy nodded vigorously. You got it, Leo. Thank you. Don't mention it. Leo was about to spin a little more yarn when someone from across the set shouted his name. Andy, what are you doing? Get over here and go over the script. This is your first time on a major show. You can't screw up. Andy looked at Leo apologetically. Leo, I've got to run. See you later. Yeah, go on. Leo was surprised to run into Andy here. He watched him jog over to the production assistant and noticed a few familiar celebrity faces nearby. He had no desire to go over and say hello, though. Real, live celebrities just weren't that exciting to him. Hey, aren't you supposed to be in this thing, too? Leo asked, turning to Kevin, who was squatting down and playing with Nyo-Nyo. Why didn't they call you? Kevin sighed wearily. I'm just a guest spot, not some big star. The celebrities can't look bad on camera, so they have to prepare everything in advance. I don't need to, so it doesn't matter. Leo frowned. Kevin was still too naive. He was trying hard to hide his emotions, but the resentment in his voice was impossible to miss. Leo then noticed that it wasn't just Nyo-Nyo. Both Cheryl and Kevin were dressed neatly in new clothes today. They looked far too put together for people who supposedly didn't care. He knew he wouldn't get anything more out of him, so he decided to send him away. I'm hungry. Go cook me a bowl of noodles. Kevin shot him an annoyed glance, but didn't argue. He slapped the dust off his pants and stood up. So demanding, he muttered, heading toward their little brick house. Cheryl started to follow, but Leo stopped her. Cheryl, Sophia wants to go pick some fruit. Can you take us? Cheryl looked from Kevin to Sophia, then nodded. Okay, follow me. She led the way toward a grove of fruit trees. Once Kevin was out of earshot, Leo asked, Cheryl, be honest with me. What's going on? Is the crew giving you guys a hard time? Cheryl paused, then shook her head quickly. No, everyone's been great. Nyo-Nyo, trailing behind Cheryl, let a huff. They're not great. They're mean people, and one of them tried to bully my sister. I wanted to let Big Yellow bite him. Before she could finish, Cheryl cut her off sharply. Don't talk nonsense. Nyo-Nyo's lip quivered, and she looked down at the ground, falling silent. Sophia and Leo exchanged a look. They didn't ask any more questions, but the anger in their eyes was mutual. They had invited the show here for a win-win situation. The show would get good publicity by creating a positive image for its guests, and in return, it would promote the Cheryl's brand. If someone was acting high and mighty, that was a problem. After picking a few pieces of fruit, Leo said they had enough. He took Nyo-Nyo's hand and walked ahead, giving Sophia a chance to talk to Cheryl alone. Back at the house, Leo sat on a bench in the yard, cracking sunflower seeds. When Kevin emerged with a steaming bowl of noodles, Leo announced, I just filled up on snacks. Kevin didn't care. He shoved the bowl into Leo's hands. You're eating this today, whether you want to or not. Looking at his fierce expression, Leo sighed. Look what had happened to the once refined class president. He turned into a complete thug. Kevin, this is what you need to do. Take a look. As Leo was eating, an assistant type walked over and handed Kevin a folder. Without another word, the assistant turned and walked away with an air of arrogance. Kevin's brow furrowed. Leo leaned over to see the memo. Act like you don't know anything, and humbly asked Poppy for advice, to highlight his vast knowledge, and you have to be grateful to him for it. During filming, do less work so it looks like Poppy is doing everything. When the cameras are off, prepare everything for Poppy in advance. Poppy was some pop star who was currently trending with a massive fan base. Leo had only heard of him. Apparently, it wouldn't be long before his sordid private life was exposed, and he'd be publicly condemned by the media and completely blacklisted, causing huge losses for his management company. This was the first time Leo had seen him in person, He was almost impressed by the man's shamelessness. Seeing Kevin's silence, he muttered, "Did you piss him off?" Kevin sighed. "No. He was rude to Cheryl this morning." Leo had a good idea of what had happened. A pretty face wasn't a crime, but sometimes it did attract unwanted trouble, especially for a girl from a mountain village in this era. Seeing Kevin's mix of anger and helplessness, Leo just continued his goading. "What's the matter? Pissed off? Well, suck it up. What's that saying again? Something about, oh yeah, turn the other cheek, right?" Kevin put the memo away and sighed again. "What else can I do?" He gave a bitter laugh. "I already offended him once this morning. If I don't play along, it's not just about him not promoting the brand. I'm afraid he'll deliberately try to sabotage it. The success of Cheryl's hinges on this. I can't afford to lose." Leo set his bowl down on the bench, clapped Kevin on the shoulder, and snatched the memo from his hands. "Remember, bring back that defiant spirit you used to have. That's the Kevin Lou I know." With that, he strode toward the film crew. Kevin was stunned for a moment, but then he hurried after him. "Who are you? Unauthorized personnel can't enter." It was the same everywhere. Most celebrities maintained an air of importance, surrounded by security guards to keep fans at a distance. Leo couldn't be bothered to explain. He just said, "Do me a favor and tell Director Zhang we're passing on this role." The security guard was confused and unsure of the situation. Afraid of getting in trouble, he hurried over to the director. A moment later, he returned, stepped aside, and told Leo and Kevin, "You can go in." Andy Zhao saw Leo storming over and quickly intercepted him. "Leo, what's wrong?" Leo didn't answer, walking straight up to the director. "How much for this piece of paper?" The director had no idea what he was asking. He glanced at his assistant, who instinctively muttered, "$1." Before anyone could react, Leo ripped the paper to shreds. "I'll pay for it." The director's expression remained unchanged, but the assistant exploded. "What do you think you're doing? Causing trouble on purpose? Security, get him out of here." Andy stepped in. "Leo, there must be some misunderstanding." But Leo just clapped the paper dust from his hands with a smile. "No, I just don't like the look of them." Everyone had seen the exchange between Andy and Leo. The big star, Poppy, who was standing nearby, spoke up in a low voice. "Andy, you know this guy? Who is he? Doesn't he have any manners?" Andy forced a laugh. "Poppy, it's a misunderstanding. It has to be." Leo looked over at Poppy. The name fit. He was as pretty as a flower. It was a shame he was a guy. And somehow that soft, delicate look had a legion of fans. "Misunderstanding? There's no misunderstanding." Poppy sneered. What's your name, Kevin? I don't care if you film this or not. If you don't want to, get the hell out." Kevin's temper flared. "Fine by me. Every time I look at your face, I feel like I just ate a turd. If I don't have to film, I'll be less disgusted for a few days." Poppy was so angry he laughed, pointing at Kevin with a limp wrist. "Oomph. Cheryl Zhou is really unlucky to be with you. As long as you're around, the Cheryl's brand will never get off the ground." I said it. Sophia, who had arrived with Cheryl at some point, was now standing nearby. Poppy's eyes lit up when he saw them. He softened his voice and continued. "If some people had any self-awareness, they wouldn't hold others back." Poppy was the show's top star, so when he spoke, everyone else knew to shut up. Even the director just poured himself a cup of tea, offered one to Sophia, and settled in to watch the drama unfold. This was much better than anything they could film. Kevin's hands clenched into fists as he glared at Poppy. He remembered what Poppy had said to Cheryl earlier, offering her a job as his assistant, promising to take care of her for life. An assistant, right? Who knew what that really meant? The thought just made him angrier. Just then, Leo leaned in and whispered, "Pissed? If you're pissed, go punch him. I'll handle the fallout." Hearing that, Kevin lunged. Poppy's shriek echoed across the set. No one had expected Kevin to actually do it. When security moved to intervene, the director waved them off, telling them not to get involved. After Kevin had gotten a few good hits in, the director finally spoke up. "That's probably enough, right?" Leo walked over and pulled Kevin back. "What are you doing? Why are you hitting people?" he said, feigning concern. "Violence is wrong." Kevin's anger had subsided. He shook out his hands, panting, and said to Leo, "You said it, remember? You'd handle the fallout." Leo turned his head to the side. "The weather is so nice today." Then he casually walked away, a perfect picture of innocence. Poppy was bruised and swollen. Bizarrely, aside from his own security, no one had stepped in to help him. Now, looking at his sorry state, everyone was trying to stifle their laughter. You hit me," Poppy stammered, his voice trembling. Kevin blinked innocently. Maybe he had been a bit impulsive. It was all Leo's fault for egging him on. But what was done, and he wasn't afraid to face the consequences. "Yeah, I hit you." Furious, Poppy pulled out his phone to call the police. But the director's voice boomed out. That's enough. If you call the cops now, every tabloid will run some garbage story. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that would be? How are we supposed to film? Cat only gave us a week. Poppy stomped his foot in frustration. So we just let it go? The director shot him a disdainful look. Or you could hit him back. Poppy shivered. If he could have won that fight, he would have started it. He had no choice but to resort to threats. You just wait. Meanwhile, Leo found a quiet spot and called Cat he. The moment she picked up, she was already apologizing. I'm sorry, this is my fault. I'll have him sent away immediately. He won't be on the show anymore. She obviously already knew what had happened. Cat, Leo continued. If you trust me, you should terminate his contract as soon as possible. A guy like that is a liability. Cat hesitated. But I can't afford his contract termination fee. Leo sighed. Then make him breach the contract. I refuse to believe you can't find something on him. I know you don't want to lose his popularity, but it's better to rip the Band-Aid off now. Instead of letting someone else expose him, you should do it yourself. Besides, once he's gone, you can give all his resources to Andy Zhao. After hanging up, Leo walked back over to Kevin. The first thing he heard was Kevin complaining. You just ran away? He glared at Leo. I'm a civilized man. I don't fight. Unlike you, Leo explained. Just then, they heard Poppy shout, Why? Why am I not filming anymore? This show had high ratings. He was counting on it to boost his exposure. The director couldn't even be bothered to explain. He just said, You have other arrangements. A car will be here to take you back soon. He then ignored Poppy and walked over to Kevin. Kevin, Poppy is gone. You'll be filling the gap he left on the show. Also, just tell us what you need for the brand promotion. The rest of the cast and crew will give you their full cooperation. Kevin blinked in disbelief and looked at Leo. Leo gave him an encouraging pat on the shoulder. Go on, don't let me down. Kevin was stunned. This was Leo's doing. Andy Zhao got the news, too, and rushed over to Leo. Leo, thank you. Cat had obviously arranged for someone to call him, and had told him that Leo was the one helping him. Leo just shook his head. Thanks are useless. The Cheryl's brand is very important to me. The best way to thank me is to help it succeed. You can count on me. No problem. Seeing his determination, Leo said no more. He turned to Sophia. Can you help create some buzz on Livewire? Before the show airs, we can start releasing some behind-the-scenes clips to guide the narrative. Kevin had said he couldn't afford to lose. Leo didn't want to lose either. If they were going to do this, they were going to do it right. Of course, Sophia replied cheerfully. With Poppy gone, the atmosphere on set improved dramatically. They even had a bonfire party that night. The villagers, led by their chief, gathered around, singing and dancing. It was a lively celebration. Among the remaining guests, Leo spotted a familiar face. The moment he saw him, he thought of a classic sitcom that had been a huge part of his youth. The actor was Jason Segel. Back in 2004, he was still a relative up-and-comer. The shows that would make him a household name were still in the future. Tell Jason to look out for you in the future, Leo said to Andy. Andy nodded and went over to chat with the actor. Jason had a memorable role in a critically acclaimed but short-lived series a few years back, and everyone thought he was destined for stardom. But he'd been in a bit of a slump. This show was Cat's last-ditch effort for him. If he didn't make a splash, he'd likely be dropped. Although Cat was friendly with Leo and Sophia, she was a businesswoman at heart. You could call her Cat, but you couldn't mistake her for your big sister. Sister? Leo, come on, let's go. Seeing the group in their traditional folk costumes dancing around the fire, Sophia couldn't resist. She grabbed Leo's hand, her cheeks flushed in the firelight. She found a gap in the circle and pulled them in, one hand holding Cheryl's, the other holding Leo's. They moved with the others, circling the fire. She hummed along to the folk song she didn't understand, a look of pure joy on her face. She was so easy to please. As long as Leo was with her, she was happy. After a bit of dancing, Leo was getting tired. He was about to make an excuse to slip away when Sophia beat him to it. Okay, let's go rest. We can play more tomorrow. Leo agreed, then asked suddenly, Hey, have I ever taken you to see a movie? Sophia shot him a look. You just realizing that now? Leo felt a pang of guilt. He turned and yelled to the village chief, who was still dancing. Chief Joe, can you help arrange for an open-air movie screening tomorrow? I'll cover the cost. The chief was overjoyed. Of course. Thank you, Mr. White. Now Sophia's smile was even brighter. She grabbed Leo's arm. Carry me back. The crew had rented rooms in the villagers' houses. To accommodate the celebrities, they had chosen newly built homes. They weren't fancy by city standards, but they were nice. They had prepared 2 adjacent rooms for Leo and Sophia, not far from the bonfire. It was only a few minutes' walk. Carry you? You don't have feet, Leo grumbled. But Sophia didn't listen, leaping onto his back. That's right, I don't. You got a problem with that. Leo couldn't bring himself to say no to her. He just adjusted her on his back and started walking into the darkness. It was October, and the moon was a slim crescent. Sophia hummed a little tune, her hands mischievous. As they passed a grove of trees, she broke off a small twig and held it high, waving it at the moon. Be careful, Leo warned. If we fall, I don't care about myself, but I don't want you to get hurt. If we fall, we fall. It wouldn't be the first time, Sophia said nonchalantly. Don't worry, I'm not afraid of getting hurt. Then tell me, what are you afraid of? Leo asked casually. Sophia's voice was so soft he could barely hear it. As they're here, I'm not afraid of anything. As you're always here. Well, you're doomed then, Leo said flatly. Sophia sounded confused. You'll never get to experience the feeling of fear for the rest of your life, Leo explained. It's kind of tragic when you think about it. Sophia fell silent, a sweet warmth spreading through her chest. Just before they reached their place, she hopped off his back. I know anyone can say sweet things, she said, looking at him. But for some reason, they sound best when you say them. And they're the only ones I want to hear. You want to hear them? Then I'll just keep saying them to you, Leo said with a smile. Sophia nodded, her expression serious. I'll remember that. They chatted as they walked into the house. After washing up, they stood at their respective doors. Good night, Sophia said. Sweet dreams. Leo yawned. I hope so. He then muttered under his breath, the kind with a beautiful woman on each arm. What did you say? Sophia asked, not quite catching it. But Leo didn't repeat himself. Good night. Watching him close his door, Sophia wrinkled her nose. Coward, she whispered, then went into her own room. The small house was new, with only 2 rooms on the second floor. Leo lay in bed, scrolling through his phone. He was about to call Chloe when his phone rang. It was her. It's her. They didn't have anything important to talk about, but somehow the conversation stretched on and on. Eventually, her voice faded, and a little while later, Leo heard the steady rhythm of her breathing. She had fallen asleep. He took a deep breath and decided not to hang up. He just left the line open. The next morning, his alarm blared. Leo rubbed his eyes, picked up his phone, and saw the call duration, 9.5 hours. Good thing he was rich. He could afford it. Chloe, he said softly. After a moment, he heard her groggy reply. Huh? How did I fall asleep? Fall asleep? Leo said teasingly. You did more than that. Did you know you snore? No, I do not. Chloe vehemently denied it. You must have heard wrong. Leo was just joking. He'd been asleep too. So who knew? After a bit more banter, he heard a soft moist sound from her end before she hung up. When Leo left his room, he saw that Sophia's room was empty, the blanket folded neatly on the bed. He went downstairs and found her brushing her teeth. Morning. The film crew's shoot followed the script to the letter. Even the unexpected moments were carefully orchestrated by the director. After watching for a while, Leo got bored. He decided that taking Sophia to a nearby grapefruit grove would be much more interesting. The grove was dense with trees and sparse with people, a perfect place for a couple to wander. Sophia was diligently picking out the best fruit when Leo wrapped his arms around her from behind, burying his face in her neck and breathing warm air against her skin. Sophia was incredibly ticklish and burst out laughing, squirming to get away. But Leo wouldn't let go. Sensing his playful mood, she stopped struggling. She turned her head, looking at him with wide, pitiful eyes. Oh, Captain, my Captain, she said in a dramatic, pleading voice. Spare me. If you let me go, I'll do whatever you want. Leo froze, stunned. Sophia seized the opportunity to break free, a mischievous glint in her eyes. You little witch. Leo sputtered. The way she had said it was unbelievably alluring. Sophia stuck out her tongue, playfully. Now, Captain. No funny business. Seeing they were alone, Leo stepped forward and gently lifted her chin. Sophia willingly tilted her head up. Which, he said again, you know you're playing with fire. Sophia blinked, her eyes reflecting only him. She stopped talking and leaned in, pressing a light, fleeting kiss to his lips. It was just a peck, but it was enough. Afterward, she wrapped her arms around his neck. Come on, Captain. Give me a smile. Leo felt like she was challenging him, openly and without reservation. He decided not to hold back. He reached up and pinched her cheek. It was incredibly soft. Just before she could cry out in protest, he silenced her with his mouth. This time, it was more than just a peck. He didn't let go until she was breathless. He looked at her flushed face, a wicked grin spreading across his own. My dear little sister, he drawled. We're all alone out here in the wilderness. How about we? Don't you dare. Her words said no, but her body leaned instinctively toward him. Leo wasn't prepared. They were on a slight slope, and he lost his footing. He tumbled backward, landing in the dirt. He wasn't hurt, but the morning mist had left the ground damp. His clothes were now covered in mud. "Are you okay?" Sophia rushed over, her face full of concern. Leo closed his eyes and lay perfectly still. Just as Sophia was starting to panic, he spoke. "I'm paralyzed. You're responsible for this. I have a thing about cleanliness, you know. I need a bath every day. You'll have to help me wash up later." He waited for a response, but heard nothing. He finally peeked an eye open to see what was happening and saw Sophia standing over him, a ball of mud in her hand. She hurled it at him. "I'll wash you, all right. Don't you run." Leo scrambled to his feet. "This woman is dangerous," he muttered as he dodged. Once he confirmed she had thrown all her ammunition, he stopped and waited for her. As she approached, he said, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. The reason this grove grows so well is because they use a very natural fertilizer." Sophia froze, looking down at her hands. Then, with surprising composure, she calmly walked over to Leo and smeared her muddy hands all over his face. "What are you doing?" Leo couldn't dodge in time. Now, not only were his clothes muddy, but his face was too. "Did you get a good whiff? What's it smell like?" Sophia asked with feigned innocence. "It smells like you," Leo said through gritted teeth. Sophia giggled. Since his clothes were already dirty, she decided to use his shirt to wipe her hands clean. "So, is the fertilizer here really?" she asked, a little grossed out. And who wouldn't be? If only Sophia had been a muddy one, Leo wouldn't have minded scaring her a little. But he was covered in much more, even on his face. He had to relent. They have an agricultural expert managing this place. They use chemical fertilizers buried deep in the soil. The surface mud is probably fine. He expected her to sigh in relief. Instead, she looked disappointed. "What a shame," she said. "I was hoping to see the village dogs get all friendly with you." Leo felt like Sophia was a completely different person. To everyone else, she was a graceful, intelligent, and serene angel. But with him, she was a mischievous, seductive witch. Since they were both a mess, they decided to head back and wash up. But as they emerged from the grove, they ran right into the film crew on their break. There were a lot of crew members and even more curious villagers. Seeing Leo's state, they all stared in shock. "Mister, what happened to you?" the village chief asked, rushing over. Leo was their golden goose. He'd introduced the film crew. They had to treat him like a king. If he got hurt here, it would be a disaster. "It's nothing. The woods were just a bit slippery." Hearing he was okay, the chief breathed a sigh of relief. Kevin walked up, rolled his eyes, and muttered to Leo, "Don't be doing weird things in the village. You never know when some old lady weeding her garden is watching." Leo didn't react, but Sophia's face turned bright red. Kevin sighed. He had no idea how Leo managed to keep his love life from imploding. Leo was about to throw an arm around his shoulder for a little chat about what exactly constituted weird things, but Kevin was one step ahead, quickly backing away. "New clothes. Can't get them dirty. They're from your brand, and they're expensive as hell." Rush Sportswear had signed a strategic partnership with the show, so all the guests wore their clothes on camera. Leo decided to let it go. It was his brand, after all. He had to be nice to it. Still, he couldn't resist. "How do you have so much experience with this? Did an old lady catch you doing something weird before we got here?" Kevin's face flushed with embarrassment. Cheryl just walked away. The village chief, standing nearby, just chuckled. It seemed he'd heard the rumors, too. In a small village, there were no secrets. Kevin coughed to cover his awkwardness and changed the subject. "Anyway, you should go get cleaned up. Look at you." "Oomph." Leo scoffed, but didn't press the issue. He waved and walked over to the director. Anyone else would have been too embarrassed to walk around like this. But not Leo. "Director Zhang, is the shoot going well? How's Cheryl's on-screen presence?" Director Zhang had been lounging in a chair, his legs crossed, berating some actors for their unnatural performances. But when he saw Leo and Sophia approach, he put his legs down and sat up straight, signaling for an assistant to bring them chairs. Once they were seated, he said, "Cheryl is fantastic. She has this natural, ethereal quality. I was thinking of suggesting the company sign her and develop her talent." Leo shook his head. "That's not a good idea. Her personality isn't suited for the entertainment industry. Besides, even if she did sign a contract, it would only be with the Cheryl's brand." The main reason Leo had gone to such lengths to get the film crew here was twofold. First, to publicize Kevin's story of leaving school to help his community, and second, to showcase Cheryl's image. The two of them as a fairy tale couple was a fantastic gimmick with immense commercial value. That value had to be controlled by the Cheryl's brand. Director Zhang could only sigh with regret. He didn't dwell on it, though, casually asking, "Do you want to give it a try? You could just be an extra, get a little screen time." Leo waved his hands dismissively. No, I'm camera shy." Sophia, standing beside him, covered her mouth to hide a laugh. Leo was just being lazy. Camera shy? That was just an excuse. After chatting with the director for a bit longer, Leo left so as not to delay their shooting schedule. He wanted the show to air as soon as possible so he could start promoting the Cheryl's brand. For now, it was just agricultural products, but once the brand was established, the product line would surely expand. As the saying went, green mountains and clear waters are mountains of gold and silver. The deep mountains were poor now, but their potential for development was limitless. Back at their lodging, there was no water heater. Hot water had to be boiled on a wood stove. To Leo's surprise, Sophia was completely at ease by the stove, adding water and tending the fire without a hint of fuss. When Leo tried to help, she just shooed him away for being in the way. Once the water was hot, she poured it all into a large red plastic bucket. She tested the temperature, and once she was sure it was fine, she said, "It's ready. Go wash up. Give me your jacket first." Leo stroked his chin with a wicked grin. "Not going to join me?" Sophia didn't immediately refuse. Instead, she slowly walked toward him and asked in a soft, husky voice, "Do you want me to?" Leo nodded. "Yes. Then you can just keep wanting," Sophia said, snatching his jacket and heading outside to the washing basin, leaving Leo standing there stunned. He rubbed his nose sheepishly and carried the bucket of water away. By the time Leo had washed up and changed, Sophia had already washed his jacket and hung it on the clothesline. Leo found himself lost in thought. This kind of life was actually quite nice. A small country courtyard, a cat, a dog, and someone to wash clothes and cook with. Busy with work, idle with chatter. It was good. But he quickly shook his head. 2 people was too boring. 3 was more like it. You couldn't play mahjong, but you could play cards. Sophia noticed he had come out. Seeing the water droplets still in his hair, she ran back to her room and returned with a dry towel. "There's no hairdryer. You'll have to dry it yourself." Leo pretended not to hear, pulling over a low stool and sitting in front of her, craning his neck. Sophia was both exasperated and amused, but she started drying his hair for him anyway. "Just keep spoiling him," Kevin said, walking over just then. His voice was laced with envy. Leo was unbothered. This was something Kevin could only dream of. "You're not filming? What are you doing here?" Kevin shrugged. "You think I want to be here?" A few distributors from Seattle came over to talk about a partnership. Now Leo was surprised. "So soon? We haven't even run any ads yet." "Who knows?" Kevin said, equally puzzled. It was Sophia who, after a moment of thought, said uncertainly, "Could it be that someone from the crew contacted them ahead of time? Right now, only the staff knows the show is going to promote Cheryl's. That show is a huge hit. The ratings are through the roof. Any brand that appears on it, even a bottle of water, sells out. A brand they're intentionally promoting will be even bigger. That would explain why they all showed up at once." Leo considered it and thought she was probably right. Though slightly annoyed, he said to Kevin, "Where are they? We should go meet them." "In the village community office." Leo didn't delay. He left the bucket of his discarded clothes under the eaves and headed out with Sophia and Kevin. The community office was bustling. They could hear the village chief's hearty laughter from a distance. When they walked in, his laughter grew even louder. "Gentlemen, let me introduce you. This is Leo White, Mr. White." Leo glanced around. Besides the chief, there were 5 other men in the office, all of whom looked to be over 30. They were momentarily surprised when they saw Leo, but being seasoned businessmen, they quickly recovered. "Mr. White, we've heard so much about you," a man in a sharp suit said, standing up and extending his hand mid-stride. "I just never expected you to be so young. Truly remarkable." Leo maintained his professional courtesy and shook his hand. "And you are?" "The name's Chuck, Big Chuck. I'm in the fresh produce business. I supply most of the major markets in the surrounding counties." Big Chuck was all smiles. After introducing himself, he continued, "These gentlemen are in the same line of work, just different regions. We're here today to discuss a partnership with you." Leo could tell Big Chuck was a straight shooter, or at least he appeared to be. He got right to the point. "We know you're a man of great vision, not someone who's interested in short-term gains. That's precisely why we're even more sincere about wanting to work with you." Businessmen were all sly foxes. They'd praise you to the moon before getting down to business. If they were dealing with a greenhorn, the flattery might seal the deal. If they were dealing with another old fox, it was pointless, but at least it made a good first impression. Anyone who showed up before the Cheryl's brand was even officially launched had to have good connections. Leo was happy to hear them out. "Chuck, Why don't we sit down and talk about how we can work together? Big Chuck nodded eagerly. Excellent, excellent. After they were seated, the village chief personally poured tea for everyone. The men sitting here were his golden geese. If they helped him alleviate poverty in the village, he could get a promotion. So he was exceptionally courteous. Big Chuck continued. The partnership model is simple, and we're very sincere. For all products with the Cheryl's label, we'll purchase them at a price 10% higher than the market rate for similar products. He paused, emphasizing, that's the market price, not the wholesale price. Leo understood, of course. He nodded for Chuck to continue. For the initial contract, we're proposing 6 months. During that time, we'll assume all profit and loss. We could discuss future collaborations after that. What do you think? Big Chuck and his colleagues were making a gamble. Business was all about information asymmetry. They had their channels to learn about Leo and some of the promotional strategies for the Cheryl's brand. Right now, not many people knew, so they had the upper hand. Of course, they were also genuinely optimistic about the brand's potential. A brand that launched with a promotion on the highest-rated show on television was destined for success. Honestly, Leo was very tempted by their offer. Cheryl's had no reputation yet, and before it officially launched, no one knew if customers would pay extra just for the brand name. But that wasn't his concern. He looked at Big Chuck. What are your conditions? Big Chuck smiled. Simple. Give us exclusive distribution rights for the brand. The market is flooded with knockoffs these days, even in fresh produce. To be honest, we're interested in the name Cheryl's. The products themselves don't matter as much. Similar products are all about the same quality. If we don't get exclusive rights and counterfeits start popping up and undercutting prices, it will be a mess for us. With exclusive rights, any product that doesn't come from us is a fake, which makes it much easier to handle. After Chuck finished, Leo gave him a long, appraising look. This was a true businessman with real foresight. He knew the farm's current output was limited, so he deliberately mentioned that he didn't care where the products came from. As long as they had the Cheryl's label, they would buy them at a premium. It was up to Leo to implement it. As for quality, that was a non-issue. What brand would deliberately tarnish its own reputation? If they were that short-sighted, the partnership would just end in 6 months. After a moment of silence, Big Chuck prompted him. Mister, what do you think? If it works for you, I can arrange for a pickup today. Leo saw no problem with it. A 6-month trial period wasn't just for Chuck to evaluate the brand. It was also for Leo to evaluate Chuck's capabilities. However, he didn't make the decision himself. He turned to Kevin. What do you think? Kevin had been listening intently, silently. When all eyes turned to him, he was flustered for a moment, but quickly composed himself. It works. 2 simple, decisive words. Leo was very pleased. As long as he was willing to make a decision, it didn't matter if it was wrong. Hesitation and indecisiveness were the death of business. All right then, you handle the rest of the communication with them. After all, you're the head of this band, Leo said. Once you've drafted the agreement, you can email it to David White for him to look over. This time it's free, but in the future, you'll have to pay his consulting fees. With that, Leo stood up to leave. He never intended to interfere too much in the brand's operations. This wasn't the era of social media explosion yet. The brand's true value wouldn't be fully realized for another decade. The timeline was too long for him. To make money now, he had to rely on retail. Once the market was established, you could become a billionaire just by selling bottled water. Rush Sportswear was developing very well on that model, and Leo had been hands-off for a while. Leo left, and Sophia naturally followed. She had little interest in business. If it weren't for Leo, she wouldn't have even come. Besides, she still had clothes to wash. It was nearly noon, and the film crew was breaking for lunch. Everyone, from staff to celebrities, was eating the same boxed lunch. Sophia had intended for them to grab a meal with the crew, but by the time they got there was almost nothing left. The director was sitting in a chair with a tray, looking a bit embarrassed. How about I have the cook go pick some vegetables from the field and make a special meal just for you two? Sophia shook her head. That's okay. We'll figure something out ourselves, right, Leo? Leo distinctly remembered Cookie, the cook, buying a whole pig from a villager. He'd even asked him to save him some intestines when they butchered it that morning. But now there was nothing left. How could the crew have eaten so much? A pig had to be at least 200 pounds. Leo scanned the area for Cookie's burly figure, but couldn't find him. He should have been easy to spot. What are you looking for? Sophia asked when he didn't respond. Leo sighed and looked at the director. Where's the pig? Director Zhang pointed his chopsticks toward the nearby school. Leo followed his gaze and noticed the school seemed unusually lively today. We gave it to them, Zhang said. All right then. Leo said nothing. So noble of you. So impressive. The funding for this entire shoot came from Leo. And in the end, he couldn't even get a piece of intestine from the pig he'd paid for. But he didn't dwell on it. It was a good deed, and he should support it. Just as Leo was about to go find a villager to buy a chicken to make spicy chicken, Cookie finally returned. He looked exhausted, his face covered in sweat, but he was smiling so wide his eyes were squeezed into slits. When he saw Leo, his smile vanished, replaced by an awkward expression. Hit. Leo rolled his eyes and turned to leave, but Cookie called out to him. Mr. White. He had heard Director Jean call Leo that, so he followed suit. What? Are you going to pay me back for my intestines? Hearing Leo's tone, Cookie looked even more embarrassed, but he walked up and handed Leo a composition notebook. I think this should go to you. Leo took it. The notebook was neat. He flipped it open. The handwriting inside was crooked, with some words spelled out in phonetics. You could barely make out what it said. Today I got clothes from Uncle Leo. I'm so happy. My sister said I have to study hard and then make money to repay him. My sister said I look good in my new clothes. It's a shame Mom and Dad can't see. My sister and brother both say Uncle Leo is a good person. I think so too. I watched them kill the pig. Erge Wong said he wanted to eat some. Hewa said so too. I actually want to eat some too. Leo was lost in the words when Cookie spoke. I found it next to the school. I don't know who wrote it. The director saw it, found the principal, and told him that from today until we finish filming, we'll be responsible for lunch for all the students and teachers. He also told the principal that if anyone asks who's paying, to say it was Leo. It's a good thing there aren't many students, only about 100 including the teachers. Compulsory 9-year education wouldn't be implemented until 2006. Before then, especially in poor rural towns, parents didn't prioritize education, so student numbers were low. The main reason was that tuition was too expensive for the villagers to afford. They'd rather have their kids herd cattle or farm the land than spend money on school. Leo's expression was complicated. He was beginning to understand why Kevin didn't want to leave this place. After a moment, he collected himself, put the notebook away, and called Mr. Stewart. I need you to contact the principal of the school here in this town. On behalf of Rush Sportswear, we're donating a library and a cafeteria. We'll subsidize the cafeteria's operations, charging only half the cost price for meals. In reality, Leo didn't care about collecting that half. But if it were completely free, it could lead to waste, not to mention the risk of fostering a sense of entitlement in the children. He hung up the phone and muttered under his breath, "What terrible phrasing. Uncle? Am I that old? Looks like 40 minutes isn't enough. We're making it an hour." Sophia, listening nearby, covered her mouth to hide her laughter. Sometimes Leo could be incredibly petty. After making the arrangements, Leo headed toward a farmhouse. He had his eye on their chickens. "Ma'am, I'd like to buy a chicken." "Sophia, can you go pick some peppers from the garden? I'm going to make you spicy chicken." Leo remembered that Sophia liked spicy food. Okay. After Leo paid, the old woman kindly slaughtered and cleaned the chicken for him. Just then, Kevin finished his meeting with Big Chuck and the others. He came out just in time to see Leo carrying the chicken back to their lodging. At first, it didn't register, but then his stomach grumbled loudly. He hurried over, asking eagerly, "Need any help?" Leo slapped his hand away. "You? Help eat?" Kevin nodded. "Yeah." Cheryl, standing beside him, blushed with embarrassment. This wasn't the Kevin she knew. Why was he so shameless in front of Leo? Leo knew he couldn't get rid of him, so he said nothing more. He just handed Kevin the notebook. "Is this Nyonyo's?" Kevin took it and looked. "I think so." "Cheryl, take a look." Cheryl nodded. "It's hers. A drop of oil fell on it when we were eating earlier. I even scolded her for it." Hearing this, Leo said directly, "Kevin, even Nyonyo is more sensible than you." Seeing Kevin's confused expression, Leo shrugged. "Nyonyo calls me uncle and you brother. Doesn't that mean you should call me uncle, too?" He looked at Kevin with a teasing grin. "Come on, my dear nephew. Call me uncle." Kevin sneered. "Huh." He then grabbed Cheryl's hand and walked away. Arguing with Leo was a losing battle. But before he left, he called back. "You cook the food, I'll go make the rice. I'll bring it over later." It was clear he had no qualms about mooching off their meal. Leo, left without a response, felt a bit deflated, like he'd thrown a punch at a cotton ball. He could only shut up and keep walking. Sophia had already picked the peppers. When Leo got there, she was washing his clothes, the ones he just changed out of. She was humming a little tune as she worked, looking perfectly content. Leo didn't disturb her, heading straight for the kitchen. A wisp of smoke rose from the chimney, punctuated by the occasional bark of a dog. Kevin arrived quickly, carrying a bamboo steamer and his own bowls and chopsticks. "Is it ready yet?" he demanded as soon as he got there. Sophia, who had finished the laundry and was now helping Leo with the fire, laughed. Not yet, just a little longer. The old hen from the farmer's yard was plump but tough, its bones hard and meat tight. It was taking a while to cook. Kevin realized he was just in the way in the kitchen. After a few complaints, he went back outside. Cheryl followed him. Is Sophia the girl from high school you were talking about? She asked. Kevin froze. Did I say that? Cheryl gave a small smile. Last night, you had a little to drink and said a lot of things. What did I say? Kevin blinked. He had almost forgotten. He'd been happy yesterday and had a few drinks, and when he drank, he tended to talk nonsense. Cheryl's voice was soft. You said that even though Leo stole your youth, you could never bring yourself to hate him. You also said that if there was anyone you could entrust your life to, it would be Leo. Kevin was mortified. He looked at Cheryl, and seeing she wasn't angry, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Nonsense, that was just drunk talk. I didn't say that. And no, it's not her. Now Cheryl was surprised. Kevin added, she's another wonderful girl. I just don't know if you'll ever get a chance to meet her. Cheryl fell silent. She sat with Kevin, quietly peeling garlic. Since they were preparing a meal for 4, it took Leo a bit longer. Besides the spicy chicken, he also made a few vegetable dishes. By the time everything was ready, it was past 2 in the afternoon. They say a late lunch tastes best, but Kevin couldn't handle the spice. Sophia and Cheryl, on the other hand, couldn't stop eating. Even Kevin looked at Cheryl with curiosity. I never knew you liked spicy food. Cheryl's face flushed. She whispered, because you don't. Leo, who was about to take another bite, stopped. He put down his bowl and chopsticks and left the table. He was full. Sophia wiped her mouth and followed him out. You guys enjoy. First to finish, first to leave. Last to finish does the dishes. Outside, Sophia found Leo sitting under the eaves, staring at a distant mountain. What's wrong? She asked quietly. Leo shook his head. I was just thinking that living here wouldn't be so bad. Then after we graduate, we can come live here, Sophia said. He could tell she wasn't joking. She truly preferred the tranquility of the countryside to the city. Of course, that was only possible if you had money. Coincidentally, she wasn't short on it. Livewire was already generating a decent income. But Leo didn't commit. He just said, the view is incredible, but are we getting a little tunnel vision here? Sophia blinked, then just watched him silently. It made Leo a little uncomfortable. What are you looking at? A playful smile touched Sophia's lips. I'm looking at your eyes. They're really beautiful. They hold everything. Sunshine and rain, sun and moon, mountains and rivers, clouds and mist, flowers and birds. Leo was taken aback for a moment, then met Sophia's gaze. It's more than that. They have you too. Before she could reply, he added, of course, your eyes are even better. After all, they have a handsome guy like me in them. Sophia felt the same way, but hearing it from Leo's mouth still made her blush. You're so shameless. Leo didn't care what she said. He leaned in closer, as if to get a better look. But just then, Kevin's voice shattered the moment. Leo, you have anything going on this afternoon? Want to come with me? Leo took a deep breath, watching him saunter out of the house. He said, his face a perfect mask of calm. I'm in the mood to curse someone out right now, so please leave. Sophia burst out laughing. Kevin, however, didn't get it first. He just stood there, looking confused. When it finally clicked, he glared at Leo. Who are you calling not a person? Leo threw his hands up and rolled his eyes. If the shoe fits, wear it. Kevin forced himself to rise above it. He took a moment to compose himself, then said, Big Chuck and his guys are coming to pick up the first shipment today. Want to go check it out? Not interested. You can handle it, Leo said bluntly. But he still added a piece of advice. Remember to keep the wholesale prices confidential. That's a trade secret. Don't be careless. As for the villagers, pay them according to the profit-sharing agreement we signed. Kevin wasn't a complete amateur. He nodded to show he understood, then sighed as he looked at Leo's leisurely posture. You know, if the employee doesn't work hard, the boss will never get to live the life he wants, right? The words were barely out of his mouth when Leo flicked a pebble at him, not holding back at all. That's a very dangerous thought, Leo said as the stone flew. I suggest you get rid of it. After Kevin left, Leo dusted off his hands. Employees these days were getting harder and harder to manage. Sophia was much better. Seeing that they were alone, Leo was about to pull Sophia closer for a private chat, but she scrambled away, eyeing him with suspicion. Leo was completely baffled. He had no idea what was going on. Then, with a knowing, triumphant smile, Sophia produced a wrinkled, laminated card. Leo froze. He glanced at the pants hanging on the clothesline. They were the ones he had worn before. He'd thrown them in the wash after wearing them last, but he must have forgotten to empty the pockets. How could he have forgotten about this? But this was no time for admissions of guilt. He could only feign ignorance. What's this? Sophia, I didn't know you were into this sort of thing. He made a grab for it, but she snatched it away. She glared at him. Keep pretending. Leo threw up his hands in surrender. Okay, I can't. It was a misunderstanding. When we went out to eat that one time, my roommate picked it up and stuck it in my pocket. You know, Mark, after a long explanation, he saw Sophia was still squinting at him skeptically. He finally just asked, after all that, do you believe me? Sophia blinked. If I said I did, would you believe me? I would. Shameless. Leo could see she wasn't truly angry. He said earnestly, I'm not that kind of person. It was all Mark. Sophia pursed her lips, thought for a moment, then handed him the card. Here, take it, and keep it safe. Leo wouldn't have dared. He took the card, pulled out a lighter, and set it on fire. I told you, it was a misunderstanding. Sophia turned her head away, looking at something in the distance. He thought he heard her mutter something under her breath, something about him being a total coward. The next 2 days were much more relaxed for Leo. He and Sophia spent their time running all over the mountains. The construction of the library and cafeteria donated by Rush had been scheduled, and the construction team had arrived. The town was suddenly much busier. The happiest were the children. When they weren't in class, they were either gathered around the film crew or at the school, watching the excavators dig the foundation. The product sales were also going smoothly. Although Leo didn't pay much attention, he overheard Kevin mention that the first batch of products, all bearing the Cheryl's label, had been shipped out, bringing in nearly $10,000. And that was just the first batch. There would be more. According to their agreement, Kevin kept 30%, and the rest was distributed to the villagers. When the villagers got the money, their faces lit up with joy. When Kevin promised them that there would be more to come, they were even happier, thanking him profusely. Most of the people left in the town were elderly, and some were already thinking about calling their children back home. On a hillside, Leo lay on a pile of dry yellow grass with a foxtail weed dangling from his mouth, his hands pillowed behind his head, watching Sophia try to fly a kite. Are you even trying? He called out. Sophia had been at it for a long time, trying every trick she knew, but the kite just wouldn't fly. She was sweating from the effort. Hearing Leo's teasing, her temper flared. She stomped over and threw the kite at him. You're so good, you do it. Leo pushed the kite off himself and tossed it aside. He sat up, grabbed Sophia's hand, and pulled her down on top of him. Sophia yelped, caught off guard. But when she felt Leo's arms around her, her shriek turned into a happy giggle. She plucked the foxtail from his mouth and used the fuzzy end to tickle his nose. Leo twisted his head from side to side, trying to dodge her, which only made her laugh harder. When they were both tired from playing, Sophia rested her head on his chest, staring up at the sky. We have to go back soon. They had been here for several days, and it was time to leave. But for some reason, Sophia was reluctant. For these few days, Leo had been hers, and hers alone. Leo's hand rested on her hair, gently stroking it. A quote came to his mind. If I love you, and you happen to love me too, when your hair is messy, I'll smile, brush it aside for you, and let my hand linger for a few extra seconds. But if I love you, and you happen to not love me, when your hair is messy, I'll just gently tell you, your hair is a mess. After a moment of silence, Leo said, You have classes, and I have to make money. It's time to go back. Sophia knew he was right. She buried her face in his chest and murmured, Hold me. After a while, she sat up, brushing the grass off her clothes. She hesitated, then asked cautiously, Can you spend a few days with me every year, just to go somewhere? Just the two of us. A few days is all. If Leo remembered correctly, this was the first time Sophia had ever asked him for anything. She asked for so little, so very little, that he felt a pang of guilt. Of course I can. Hearing his reply, Sophia smiled. She closed her eyes, faced the wind, and stretched out her arms. Only when Leo wrapped his arms around her waist from behind did she open them again. Let's go, she said. Let's go back. A quiet, comfortable life is an addictive drug. At least, that's what Leo thought. If it weren't for things he had to handle back in Riverbend, he would have convinced Sophia to stay with him in the countryside for a few more days. But that wasn't his reality. The simple, peaceful life was for other people. He was stuck carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. After all, neither Sophia nor Chloe was low maintenance. They could say they didn't mind him being poor, but he couldn't actually be poor. Besides, Chloe had started to sense something was off. The last few days, her texts had been filled with probing questions, trying to figure out if he'd gone on this trip alone or with someone else. It was only thanks to Leo's steel trap mind that he'd managed to deflect each time, but he knew that wouldn't last. It was better to just go back. The TV crew was also wrapping up their shoot for the charity special. The director, Mr. Zhang, had told them the footage they'd gotten was unexpectedly incredible, especially the scenes filmed at the school. He also mentioned he had a surprise for Leo, but he was being maddeningly secretive about it. Leo hated mysteries, and after asking a few times and getting nowhere, he gave up. He'd just have to wait and see it on TV when it aired. Caddy had arranged the car back to Riverbend. Leo felt zero shame about accepting it. In fact, he was pretty pleased with himself. Have a good trip. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Kevin Liu said, holding his daughter Nina's hand while Cheryl Zhou stood beside him. Looking at his old friend, who was getting more tan by the day, Leo sighed and ignored the jab. He bent down to the little girl. Nina, you study hard, okay? When Nina nodded seriously, Leo looked back up at Kevin. If you can swing it, you should really bring Nina to Riverbend for school. The quality of education in a small town like Oak Creek couldn't compare to the city. Leo had learned from Mr. Zhou, the community manager, that only 2 kids from the entire town had gotten into 4-year universities after graduation this year, and not even top-tier ones. Staying here would limit Nina's future. Kevin knew it, too. He nodded slowly. I'm talking to my parents about it. If they agree, I'll send her over. Leo thought Kevin was a great guy, but his parents were saints. Not only had they supported him taking a year off from college, but now they were about to help him raise a kid at such a young age. If Leo ever told his own mother, Helen, that he was bringing a child home for her raise, he shook his head, not daring to imagine it. The kid would probably be fine, but he'd be dead. The driver had gone to the restroom and wasn't back yet. Kevin nudged him. Smoke. Leo thought for a second, then nodded. He followed Kevin to a secluded spot. Don't want Nina breathing this stuff in, Kevin explained. All right, what's up? Leo said, lighting up. He knew this wasn't just about a cigarette. Kevin didn't answer right away. He lit his own, then squatted down, gazing softly in Cheryl and Nina's direction. This town is too small, he said quietly. It's not just holding Nina back. It's limiting the Cheryl's brand, too. He took a long drag. You think I should take them back with me? Leo shot up, choking on a lungful of smoke. After a few ragged coughs, he managed to ask, Does your mom know? Kevin shook his head. That's the thing. I don't know how to tell her. He sighed. Sometimes I really envy you, Leo. You just do whatever you want, living this glamorous life. And you've got people by your side. Leo patted his shoulder with a knowing, profound air. You only envy my glamorous life because you don't know the price I've paid, he said in a low, consoling voice. If you knew, you wouldn't be envious anymore. Kevin turned to look at him, intrigued by Leo's sudden solemnity. Seeing his friend look so down actually made him feel a little better. Oh yeah? What's the price? He asked eagerly. Leo couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. You wouldn't be envious, he cackled. You'd be extremely envious. Because I don't think I've paid any price at all. While Kevin stared at him, dumbfounded, Leo scrambled to his feet and jogged away, knowing he deserved a punch. He glanced back over his shoulder. Your parents are smarter than you think. Just be straight with them. The moment they agree to let you take a year off, they were already on your side. He grinned. And hey, if they don't accept it, I know a reformed pickpocket. I can ask her to unreform for a day and help you forge a lease agreement for school registration. It was a ridiculous suggestion, but to Kevin, it almost sounded like a viable backup plan. Back in the car, the driver was waiting. Let's go. Yes, sir. On the road, Sophia turned to Leo. What were you two talking about? He was asking for my advice on how to bring Cheryl home to meet his parents. Sophia looked startled. Already? That was fast. Then she caught herself, a blush creeping up her neck as she realized she'd already met his parents. Seeing the meaningful glint in Leo's eyes, she turned her head to stare out the window, silent. Leo didn't push it. Instead, he made a tentative suggestion. We should get into Riverbend around 6, right when Mr. Schultz gets off work. What do you say we take him out for dinner? Sophia nodded. Okay. Then something occurred to her. Wait, didn't you say you needed to see your uncle? The two aren't mutually exclusive, Leo said. We can eat with Schultz, then go see Uncle Carl. Seeing her confused blink, he explained, Honestly, I just want to give Schultz some peace of mind. Get him to stop worrying so much about kids dating in high school. As long as grades don't suffer, it's not a big deal. He raised an eyebrow at her. Right, my brilliant valedictorian? Sophia ignored his smug look, turning back to the window. Dating, she thought. It was a crush. I just watched you silently for 3 years. The driver made good time, and they arrived in Riverbend a little before 6. Leo had him drop them at the high school entrance. Staring at the familiar campus, Sophia froze, lost in memory. She only snapped out of it when Leo draped an arm over her shoulder and guided her toward the main gate. The security guard, an older man with glasses, was reading a newspaper. He glanced up as they approached, his instinct kicking in to reprimand a boy and girl for being so openly affectionate on school grounds. But before he could speak, he realized they weren't students anymore. He didn't recognize Leo, but he knew Sophia. Her picture was still hanging on the wall of honor in the main hall. "Excuse me, sir, is Mr. Schultz still here?" Leo asked, walking over. "Mr. Jed Schultz." The guard stood up and nodded. "He is. Hold on. I'll give him a call." "Thanks." Leo felt a wave of nostalgia. This place he couldn't wait to escape from in high school was now a distant shore he couldn't easily return to, which was exactly why he brought Sophia. Her name opened doors. His, on the other hand, was not exactly on Mr. Schultz's list of favorites. The security guard dialed Mr. Schultz's office on a landline and hit the speakerphone button. "Mr. Schultz, you have a former student here to see you. Is it a good time for them to come in?" "Sure, send them up to my office." Schultz's voice crackled through the speaker. Then he asked, "By the way, who is it? What's their name?" The guard looked at Sophia. She smiled. "It's me, Sophia Sue, Mr. Schultz." "Sophia." He sounded genuinely surprised. "What are you doing back here? Shouldn't you be in class right now?" Sophia kept it brief. "I'll tell you when I get to your office." Schultz agreed, but just as she was about to hang up, he asked, "Who are you with?" Sophia glanced at Leo, who held up a single finger. She smiled mischievously into the phone. "Just me." "All right then, no problem. Come on up. A few of the other teachers are here, too." After they hung up, Leo grinned. "Let's go." In Mr. Schultz's office, a group of teachers was huddled together, discussing the upcoming midterm exams for the freshmen. With no declared majors yet, every test was a crucial benchmark. You couldn't afford to slip up. After the call, Schultz turned to the other teachers. "Let's pick this up later. Sophia Sue is here. I'm treating all of you to dinner." The other teachers chuckled. "Well, if you insist, we won't say no." "That's right. Your star pupil is back. You owe us a meal." It was only a few minutes' walk from the gate to Schultz's office. When they arrived, Leo strode in first. "Mr. Schultz, I've missed you so much." Schultz, who had just taken a sip of water, choked violently. "Ahem, cough. I know you're happy to see me," Leo said sympathetically, "but you don't have to get so emotional." Schultz ignored him, his gaze fixed on Sophia, standing next to Leo. "Didn't you say you were alone?" Sophia covered her mouth. "Oh, I don't count him as a person." Leo tapped the back of her head. "What's that supposed to mean? You think I'm Kevin Liu or something?" The other teachers stared dumbfounded. Most of them recognized both Leo and Sophia. They just couldn't fathom how these two, who had occupied completely different universes in high school, were now together, and acting so close. Schultz's face was a thundercloud. "Shouldn't you two be at college? Why are you back here?" Leo shrugged. "Some things are more important than my own education. Like, for instance, helping more people get an education." The teachers looked utterly confused, but Schultz gave him a long, searching look. "Is this that thing you were talking about before?" "That, with great power comes great responsibility." Leo finished for him. He nodded. "You could say that." A look of relief washed over Schultz's face, and he decided to let go of the fact that Sophia had lied to him. He knew it was Leo's idea anyway. If she had said Leo was with her, he might have claimed he was too busy to see them. "All right, you two haven't eaten, have you? Come on, my treat." He was genuinely happy that they had come back to visit him. Leo, of course, had no objections. After half an afternoon in a car, he was starving. Sophia, however, started to ask about Schultz's health, a topic he clearly wanted to avoid. The doctor said it's nothing to worry about. "You two worry too much. Let's go dinner." He stood up and headed for the door, the other teachers trailing behind him. They peppered Sophia with questions about university life, asking if she was adjusting well. Someone tried to ask Leo a question, but he just said he'd only been to about 10 classes all semester, and half of those were just to hang out with Sophia. The conversation died there. It did, however, pique their curiosity about the two of them. Sophia, the young English teacher, a woman in her 20s, whispered, pulling her aside. "You and Leo, what's the deal now?" Sophia glanced at Leo and smiled. "We have a very good relationship." The teacher rolled her eyes. That was a non-answer if she'd ever heard one. Seeing that Sophia wasn't going to elaborate, she dropped it and switched to small talk about college plans. The restaurant Schultz chose was close to the school, just a 2-minute walk from the gate. Since classes hadn't let out yet, the place was mostly empty, and the food came out fast. This time, Schultz didn't let Leo order. The boy had no restraint. He did, however, ask for Sophia's opinion. Leo sighed. Schultz really held a grudge. So what if he'd borrowed some of his liquor and cigarettes, and liberated his confiscated collection of magazines, comics and novels. It wasn't that big a deal. During the meal, the teachers chatted among themselves. Worried about leaving Leo and Sophia out, they'd occasionally poke fun at him. You have a nerve to bring up those comics? You don't really think we caught you just because you had bad luck, do you? We see every little thing you kids try to pull. Leo laughed sheepishly. Man, back then, I thought stacking my books up high actually blocked the teacher's view. Turns out, it was only blocking my own future. Otherwise, who knows, maybe I would have gotten a call from Stanford, too. The moment he finished, he felt Sophia's hand pinch his thigh under the table. He yelped, "Hey, easy." Every teacher at the table snapped their head toward them, their faces painted with knowing, teasing smiles. Sophia lowered her head, focusing intently on her chopsticks, saying nothing. Schultz sighed. Leo, seriously, how are things going for you lately? At Schultz's question, the table fell silent. They had all heard rumors that Leo had made a fortune over the summer, but they were just rumors. Leo waved his hand dismissively. SOSO, you know. He gave Sophia a look. She smiled, then pulled several limited edition Rush Sportswear VIP cards from her purse. This is a gift from Leo. With these, you get 40% off any item at Rush. As if on cue, the TV hanging in the restaurant began playing a Rush commercial. Love life. Love sport. Enjoy the world. Rush. Full of infinite possibilities. Rush. Never give up. Rush was the hottest new sportswear brand of the last few months. As a local Riverbend company, it had huge support here. Many of the teachers, including those at the table, knew the founder's last name was White. They just never imagined it was their White. Sophia gave Leo a sly look. He was a good guy, but he could be incredibly petty. A teacher confiscates his comic books and tells him he'll never amount to anything, and he remembers it forever. Not out of resentment, really, just for the satisfaction of a moment like this. The table was suddenly, profoundly silent. It was Schultz's cough that broke the spell. Right? Eat your food. He knew some of the story, so he wasn't completely shocked. Still, he was annoyed. I never should have asked, he muttered. Just let the kid gloat. After a while, Leo excused himself to go to the restroom, paying the bill on his way. He'd said he'd let Schultz treat, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. It was a rare chance to see him. If he bankrupted the man, he'd never be allowed back through the school gates again. When he returned to the table, Leo announced they had to leave. The teachers were too polite to kick them out, but Leo knew they were busy and he shouldn't overstay his welcome. Mr. Schultz, everyone, we won't keep you any longer. I'll visit again next time I'm back. The teachers nodded, and Sophia left with him. The moment they were gone, the table erupted. Rush was really founded by Leo. If you think about it, the brand did appear right after he graduated. And isn't he chasing Chloe Jiang? She even went to the same university as him. So what's the deal with Sophia? It turned out teachers loved to gossip just as much as students. Once they started, they couldn't stop. Schultz, you knew about this? He shook his head. Knew what? Are you guys going to eat or not? If not, I'm getting this to go. When no one answered, he hollered, "Waiter, the check, and a couple of takeout boxes." The waiter, who knew Schultz as a regular, came over quickly. "Mr. Schultz, the young man who was with you already paid." After leaving the restaurant, Leo and Sophia hailed a cab to his Uncle Carl's place. After this trip, he didn't know when he'd be back. He had to see his uncle. Carl was riding high these days. Leo wondered if he'd found himself an aunt-in-law yet. Having gotten a call, Carl was already waiting downstairs. If it were just Leo, he would have made him come up on his own. But with Sophia there, it was different. He had to come down and greet them properly, to show respect. "You still haven't bought a car?" That was Carl's first reaction upon seeing Leo get out of a taxi. In his mind, with Leo's current net worth, he shouldn't still be taking cabs. Having a personal driver would be perfectly reasonable. The thought of a driver made Carl think of Chloe Jiang, and he quickly shook his head to clear the thought. That girl was a handful. If Leo ever brought her home, they'd have to treat her like royalty. Leo threw his hands up with a sigh. "What do I need a car for? It's a depreciating asset. Not worth it." Sophia walked over and greeted Carl with a sweet smile. "Hello, Mr. White." "Hello. Have you two eaten? Let me take you out." The mere mention of food made Leo's stomach feel bloated. He waved his hands frantically. No, we're good. I just came by to see you. And there's one other thing." He grinned. "Sophia has an older sister. She's beautiful. Want me to introduce you to you?" He thought for a moment and added, "And she's rich." Sophia was giggling uncontrollably. Seeing Carl's confused expression, she chimed in, "It's true. He's not lying." Now Carl was getting embarrassed. He put a hand on his big belly, his eyes crinkling into slits. "Forget it. Don't tease your old uncle. I'm happy with how things are now." He changed the subject. "By the way, I'm thinking of expanding the factory. What do you think? Leo was incredibly grateful to his uncle. The success of Rush was almost entirely thanks to him. The core staff were all veterans from his factory. When Leo founded Rush, he had offered Carl half the company, but his uncle had refused. He'd said that even if Leo gave it to him, it would all be Leo's in the end anyway, so it was better not to. He didn't want another moment of recklessness to lead to some foolish decision. He'd even wanted to give the factory to Leo, content with just a share of the profits. After his last business disaster, he had reined in his ambition and was even thinking about retirement. But Leo didn't want him to be idle. A man with too much free time goes to waste. He never expected to hear his uncle talking about expansion. This was great news. Of course, with Rush backing you, you can expand as much as you want. But Carl shook his head. Rush has its own stable supply channels now. My little factory wouldn't add much. Your uncle really loves you, Sophia said to Leo on the way to her house. His uncle's reason for expanding the factory, but not supplying Rush, had moved her. Leo just pursed his lips. Of course. He's my uncle. He clearly didn't want to dwell on the topic. The train back to Oregon leaves at 8 tomorrow morning. I'll pick you up at 7. Don't oversleep. Sophia rolled her eyes. You think I'm you? The kind who can't wake up once they're asleep? That's called good sleep quality, Leo retorted. A lot of people would kill for that. They chatted casually until they reached her apartment building. After the taxi pulled away, Sophia stopped and opened her arms. Leo moved in and hugged her naturally. He thought it would be a brief, symbolic embrace, but after a few minutes, she still hadn't let go. What's wrong? He asked, confused. Sophia burrowed her head into his chest and nuzzled him. Nothing, she murmured. It's just, when we get back to school, I won't be able to see you all the time. Leo stroked her hair soothingly. Oh, you're going to miss me? When she nodded earnestly, he made a suggestion. We could get an apartment off campus. I'll cook, you do the dishes. Sophia went silent. Just as Leo was about to ask for her opinion again, she spoke. A 3-bedroom. Leo froze. Well, that's not out of the question, he said cautiously. In your dreams. Sophia took a deep breath and pulled away from his embrace, a strange, unreadable smile on her face. She just stared at him for a long moment before saying, I'll tell you a secret. Those few nights in Oak Creek. I never locked my door. With that, she spun around and jogged away, leaving Leo standing there, stunned with regret. Damn it, what was that? Maybe sleeping so soundly isn't a good thing after all. What did I miss? Watching her skip away with a jaunty step, he wasn't even sure if she was telling the truth. But he didn't overthink it. What was his would be his. He waited until her figure disappeared into the building before turning to leave. The next morning, Leo woke up early and made breakfast for his parents, David and Helen. He set the table neatly, left a note, and slipped out. It was a rare chance to do something for them. Even if it was just boiled eggs, it was the thought that counted. When he got to Sophia's building, she was already standing there, a vision of loveliness. In mid-October, the temperature was only in the 50s. She wore a light-colored dress over a knit top with a small jacket, looking pure and beautiful. Didn't sleep well last night? She asked, stifling a giggle when she saw him. She had no idea how much her words from last night had tortured him. How about I take you out next weekend? Leo proposed. He wasn't going to sleep through that opportunity again. But Sophia just chuckled. Nope, I'm going shopping with my roommates. I'll take you to a movie at night. Leo pressed, not giving up. She just kept shaking her head. Late-night movies are no good. The food trucks aren't that great, and motels are even worse. Leo sighed. This was tough. Sophia seemed to know everything. It was no fun, really no fun at all. He resignedly led her to the taxi, and they headed for the train station. It was almost noon when they got back to Oregon. Leo dropped Sophia off at her campus, then took a cab back to the station and found a random step to sit on. He pulled out his phone and called Chloe. I'm back. Coming to get me. Just as she hung up, Leo could have sworn he heard a professor's lecture in the background. He had no idea how long on my way would actually be. The train station was a chaotic swirl of people. While he waited, several groups of people approached him, trying to sell him things like hot cell phones. Even more asked if he needed a ticket, and one guy even offered to take him somewhere fun. A naive-looking college kid was the easiest mark. Leo was happy to play dumb. At least it gave him someone to talk to. But after a few sentences, they'd all curse him for being a lunatic and walk away. Leo could spin a taller tale than any of them. Chloe didn't keep him waiting long. Less than 40 minutes after she hung up, her Land Rover pulled up. She must have skipped class. Leo. Her face lit up when she saw he was really alone. Leo reached out and gently tapped her nose. Safety first, he chided. No speeding. It took him an hour to drive from the university to the station. Chloe just shook her head, almost pouting. I won't next time. I just missed you so much. Where have you been all this time? And what about the present you said you were bringing me? Leo opened his arms wide. The present? What do you think? Am I not enough? Chloe blushed and muttered, jerk, but she threw herself into his arms anyway. I wish you really were a gift, she whispered. As she spoke, she felt him undo the band holding her hair. Her ponytail cascaded down her back like a black waterfall. Leo pulled a wooden comb from his bag and began to gently brush her hair, his movements surprisingly skilled. Leo. Chloe looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. He held the comb in front of her. Here, I made it myself. For you. She took it, overjoyed, and planted a quick kiss on his cheek. Leo wiped away the faint trace of lip gloss. You have no idea what I lost to make this comb for you, he said with a sigh of mock regret. Chloe blinked at him, confused, but he didn't explain. All right, let's head back to campus. I've got a mountain of things to deal with. If it weren't for you being here, I wouldn't even want to come back. Chloe smiled, nodded, and started the Land Rover. The drive back was slow and leisurely. She wanted to spend more time with him, too. It was that feeling of a short time apart making the heart grow fonder, which was exactly Leo's goal. This trip had been designed to use a little distance to smooth over the rift that had been growing between them. Chloe's tone that one night had genuinely scared him. It was a wake-up call. She was sharp and saw everything. She just usually kept it to herself. As long as she didn't drink, he was safe. Still, he needed to find a permanent solution to this problem. Until it was solved, he couldn't be too brazen in front of them. He could let things get emotional, but he had to stop short of anything physical. Not because he was a good person, but because he still had a few principles left. You'll have dinner with me tonight, right? Chloe asked as they parked on campus. And what about that karaoke night with my roommates you promised? Stacy and Yara keep asking about it. How about this weekend? We'll all go into Seattle for a night out. Okay. Chloe agreed, beaming. Before they got out of the car, Leo softened his voice. Did you eat properly while I was gone? Chloe blinked. I did. I think I even gained a pound. That's a good thing. They chatted for a few more minutes until Leo's phone rang, and he had to go. The demolition plan for the Mill District has been released, but a lot of the residents are refusing to leave. In the back office of Galaxy Gaming Lounge, Spike was briefing Leo on what had happened while he was away. Spike had been smart enough not to call him a single time during the trip. Even before the official plan was announced, Leo had been quietly spreading rumors to make things difficult for whoever was trying to buy up the properties on the cheap. Has the request for proposals on the redevelopment project been released yet? Leo asked. I haven't heard anything on my end, Spike said, looking a little embarrassed. Leo understood. He didn't press it. He'd have Laura Ian look into it later. He changed the subject. How's business at the lounge been? Is the second location ready? Leo noticed Spike's brow furrow at the mention of the new location. Is there a problem? Spike sighed. Leo, I'm sorry. What's wrong? Spike gritted his teeth. Gabby Exion's family had some trouble. She had to borrow over $100,000 from me. It's delayed things with the lounge. Leo sighed. Good intentions don't manage money well. It was his own fault. He knew what Spike was like and still gave him too much responsibility. He wasn't mad at him, but he couldn't help but grumble. You like her or something? Spike shook his head frantically. No, it's just, I've known her for a while, and I wanted to help. Don't worry, the money's on me. Leo couldn't take it anymore. He stood up and gave Spike a couple of light kicks. The kid was sturdy enough to take it. On you. Spike knew Leo's temper. He didn't get angry, just laughed sheepishly. Hit. Here, Leo, have a smoke. Calm down. He quickly lit a cigarette for Leo. All right, tell me what happened with her family. Gabby had been a big help with that honey trap incident involving the dean. Her unique skills could be useful, like, for example, helping Kevin Liu get his hands on a fake lease. So he asked. Spike sighed in frustration. She has this deadbeat dad who's a gambling addict. Lost a ton of money. Owes loan sharks everywhere. The scumbag tried to sell his older daughter, Katie, to some local thug as a wife to clear his debt. To trick the kids into coming home, he lied and said he'd broken his leg and was starving to death. What piece of work. Spike was getting angrier as he spoke, but Leo held up a hand. Okay, where are they now? Gabby and her brother are resting. Katie went back to campus. Leo vaguely remembered Katie, the timid girl who sold walnuts. Pretty kind-hearted, looked easy to bully. Unfortunately, he wasn't interested. People who were too quiet were difficult. They tended to be stubborn. Give her a piece of candy, and she might think you wanted to marry her. He filed their family drama away as a story he'd just heard. He looked at Spike. How much more do they need? Spike thought for a moment and held up one finger. $100,000. I'll have in your account by tomorrow, Leo said. He paused. One more thing. The guy I told you about. He's about to get out of prison. Don't worry, Leo. It's all taken care of, Spike said, his tone serious. He had taken the task Leo gave him very seriously and had already made arrangements. He won't be out for long before he's back in. It felt a little dirty, but he felt no guilt. The guy shouldn't have been stupid enough to cross Leo. Leo nodded slightly. The man wasn't even out yet, hadn't done anything, but it was better to be proactive. It was his old motto: if you can't solve the problem, solve the person who's causing it. Get to the root. He himself didn't care, but if that guy got out and went after Sophia, it would be a huge mess. After giving a few more instructions, Leo left Galaxy Gaming and headed back to campus. The university hadn't changed in the few days he'd been gone, but as he reached the door to dorm room 718, he heard a fierce argument erupting from inside. Shane, I'm telling you, I'm not doing it. We're growing steadily right now, and that's good enough. We can't get greedy and rush into things. It was Mark Liang's voice, loud and emotional. Shane Xia was just as heated. You don't know Jack. Other dorms are already starting to copy us. If we don't innovate and just sit on our hands, we're going to fall behind. Chad Xiong was enjoying the show, happily munching on an apple as long as they didn't start throwing punches. The argument only quieted down when Leo walked in. Leo's back, Chad said, tossing him an apple. Come on, pull up a seat. This is way more interesting than TV. Leo caught the apple, wiped it on his shirt without a second thought, and took a bite. He didn't say a word, just dragged his chair over next to Chad to watch the drama unfold. Now Shane and Mark couldn't keep arguing. They just glared at each other, then huffed and looked away. Where'd you get this? It's pretty sweet, Leo said to Chad, breaking the awkward silence. Chad shrugged with a sigh. Had to go pretty far for it. They've cracked down on the vendors around campus, and the fruit at the campus store is never fresh. Leo frowned slightly. They're still not letting the vendors operate. Nope. They're getting even stricter about it, Chad said. The street vendors outside the university had formed their own little commercial ecosystem. The university had tried to regulate them before, but it never stuck. Now, with the Mill District demolition looming, the crackdown was actually working. Leo found that interesting. It smelled of someone who had influence with both the city and the local thugs. Tightening the screws before the demolition news broke made sense. It was a way to drive down property values. But why keep it up now that the news was out? Street vendors were mobile. They could play guerrilla warfare. A complete crackdown required significant manpower and time, resources a city department wouldn't waste on a cat-and-mouse game with people just trying to make a living. It had to be someone else pulling the strings. If Leo were just an observer, he wouldn't have thought much of it. But he wasn't just watching. He was planning to make money here. He'd already spent millions buying up a few acres of land on the edge of the university district to build a commercial street. Luckily, the area was still technically in the suburbs. In the city proper, an acre would cost millions, rivaling prices in major hubs like New York or LA. The foundation for his commercial street was already being laid. According to his plan, it had to be operational before the new year. This was just a stepping stone. Leo's ultimate goal was to use the commercial street to solve the problem of the Mill District vendors who were refusing to move, thereby strengthening his bid for the redevelopment project. But now it seemed things weren't going to be that simple. His own methods were gentle, more expensive, and designed to minimize conflict with the residents. But someone else was just kicking over their rice bowls, giving them no room to negotiate. Leo had to admit, given the times, the other guy's approach was probably the most direct and effective. Who cares if other people live or die? Forced demolitions were a common story. After a moment's thought, Leo walked out onto the balcony and dialed Ethan Zhang's number. Given the current situation, his appetite wasn't big enough to swallow this whole meal. He needed a backer. You have to stand on the shoulders of a giant to see farther. Or, to put it another way, when the sky is falling, you need a tall guy to hold it up. Ethan Zhang was very tall, and those muscles of his looked like they could hold up just about anything. You're not going to believe this, but I was just about to call you, Ethan said as soon as he picked up. Leo was momentarily stunned, but quickly recovered with a sheepish grin. I believe it. I guess you could say we have a psychic connection. Huh? Ethan was already used to Leo's shamelessness. You first, he said softly. Hit. It's about the Mill District redevelopment project near my campus. Interested in bidding on it together? I don't know the ropes in this area. Ethan's reply was swift. I was going to talk to you about the same thing. We've already found out who leaked the information. It was someone on my team. I'm very surprised. If we hadn't caught this, the consequences could have been disastrous. Even though Leo had already guessed, hearing Ethan confirm, it was still shocking. The original proposal had only been seen by Ethan's inner circle, his most trusted advisors. Each of them knew countless company secrets. A breach like this was a massive problem. Though Ethan's tone was calm, Leo could sense his fury. He wasn't just angry about the betrayal. He was angry at his own misjudgment of character. Mr. Jiang, Leo said, trying to console him. You're bound to run into a few snakes. Don't let it get to you. What do you think about this project? Is it doable? Ethan was a veteran of high-stakes games and wouldn't show his vulnerability to Leo. He leaked it to a former rival of mine. I can't tell you who it is right now. Let's just say they're very powerful with a very strong background. I'm not telling you because I don't want you to feel pressured. You just go ahead and do what you need to do. I got your back. It's just, for certain reasons, I can't have a public falling out with him, so I can't get personally involved. You understand? Someone who could buy off one of Ethan's inner circle was obviously no small fry. Leo was happy to remain ignorant. A newborn calf doesn't fear the tiger. If he ran into a wall, he could just claim youthful ignorance. But if Ethan got involved, the stakes would be different. As long as Ethan promised to back him up, that was enough. It was just a verbal promise, but Leo had his phone's call recording feature enabled. I understand, Mr. Jiang. I'll let you know if I need anything. Ethan was pleased with Leo's discretion. Just as Leo was about to hang up, Ethan suddenly asked, so, as long as it's within the bounds of the law, any method is fair game, right? Yes. That gave Leo even more confidence. After a bit more small talk, just as he was about to end the call, Ethan spoke again. You were out of town for a couple of days, weren't you? Leo's gut clenched. Yeah, what's up? He asked, feigning calm. It's nothing, Ethan said. It's good for a young man to have some wild ideas. But you can't keep being wild forever. Leo stood there in a daze, the dial tone buzzing in his ear long after he'd taken the phone away. He finally let out a long sigh. He didn't threaten to come after me with a knife. Guess he really is busy lately, he muttered to himself, deciding for now it was best to let those words go in one ear and out the other. The call with Ethan had been long. When Leo went back into the dorm, Shane and Mark were still sulking. The atmosphere was tense. You're adults, Leo said. You need to use your words. Or do I have to ask what happened? Living under the same roof, you couldn't hold grudges. They probably didn't have the guts to poison each other, but Leo wouldn't put it past them to slip some laxatives into someone's drink, and he didn't want to be collateral damage. Shane glanced at Mark, who pointedly ignored him. Shane scoffed. It's no big deal. We've been making some money, and I think we should rent a storefront off campus, make things more official. But he's against every idea I have. It's impossible to talk to him. Mark glared and jabbed a finger at him. Stop with the high and mighty excuses. You dare say you're not just doing this to show off for Yvonne Yuan? Rent for a storefront, management fees, utilities, staff. Have you even calculated the costs? Can we afford that right now? Leo went back to watching the show, having pieced together the situation. With a purely curious expression, he asked Shane, so you and Yvonne are a thing now? Shane flushed with embarrassment. Mark snorted derisively. What thing? That's putting it nicely. The truth is, she hasn't given him the time of day, and he's still shamelessly chasing after her. Now Leo was even more intrigued. He pulled up his chair. Details. Leo, don't listen to his nonsense. Shane protested before Mark could elaborate. Yvonne's like that with everyone. I just need to find a common interest with her, and things will be fine. I heard she likes desserts, so I was thinking of opening a dessert shop near campus. There's no competition right now, so I thought it could work. Leo looked at the pure, unfiltered foolishness in Shane's stubborn eyes and couldn't bring himself to shoot him down. He just changed the subject. Instead of worrying about what desserts she eats, why don't you ask her how she eats them and doesn't gain any weight? Like, does she work out or something? It was like a light bulb went on over Shane's head. He fell silent, lost in thought. With Shane quiet, Mark sat down next to Leo, opening a notebook to go over the last few days of business. As he spoke, the dorm room's landline rang intermittently. Chad answered it each time. They were all delivery orders. Joel Hill from the Residential Life Committee is helping us promote this, Mark explained. We have reps in every single dorm building now. Anyone who needs something can call us directly for delivery, or they can just go to the reps room in their building to pick it up. We provide the stock, and we split the profits 50-50 with the reps. We're making over $100 a day in profit, and it's still growing. At this rate, after costs, we could each clear over $1,000 this month. So what do you think? Should we add more products and expand? Mark was thrilled. His monthly allowance was only a few $100s, so he was pouring all his energy into this. Leo knew that while individual college students didn't spend much, the sheer number of them made up for it. Low profit, high volume. That was the business mantra he had instilled in them. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction, but it wasn't that simple. As long as you're small time, nobody cares. But once you reach a certain scale and start stepping on someone else's toes, you'll have problems. The university has a convenience store. You think the owner, who pays a ton in rent every year, is just going to sit back and watch you expand indefinitely. Mark fell silent, his brow furrowed. Leo had a point. After a moment, he asked hesitantly, "So what do we do?" "Just stay stuck in this limbo, not big enough to matter, but not small enough to ignore." Shane, ever the bull in a china shop, snorted while chewing his apple. "We just do our thing. As long as we're legal, what can they do to us? It's fair competition." Leo gave him a look you'd reserve for an idiot. Before he could say anything, Chad chimed in. "Are you for real, or are you just playing dumb? Fair competition? What if they don't want to play fair? What if they send a few people to buy snacks from you, then claim the food was expired and made them sick and demand compensation? What do you do then? They have a business license. They can follow procedure. You." Chad's words hit Shane like a ton of bricks. He looked genuinely scared. They wouldn't go that far, would they? Chad shrugged his massive shoulders. Messing with someone's livelihood is like attacking their family. You tell me if they'd go that far. Leo smiled slightly. Chad looked like a happy-go-lucky jock, but he was incredibly sharp. His family was in business. He knew how things worked. "So what do we do?" Mark had forgotten his argument with Shane. He leaned in, putting a hand on Shane's shoulder as he looked to Leo and Chad for an answer. Chad shrugged again. "You don't know? What a coincidence, neither do I." Leo burst out laughing at Chad's deadpan delivery. The sound made the others turn to him. "Leo, you have a plan, right?" Leo's mind wasn't really on this, but if a few words could help them out, he didn't mind. He was curious to see what this group of ambitious, headstrong kids could accomplish. "We do exactly what you said," he told Mark. "Keep expanding our network of dorm reps. Aim for one on every floor of every building." Mark was confused. His idea had just been shot down, so why was Leo supporting it now? Leo explained, "From now on, don't get your stock for the wholesale market. Get it from the owner of the campus store. Talk to him, get him to give us a discount. Or we can offer to be his sales force, and he gives us a commission. There's money for everyone to make." Chad gave Leo a long, deep look. He thought he had a high opinion of Leo already, but this was on another level. Leo made it sound simple, but the strategy was anything but. People, especially college students, were creatures of habit. Once they got used to having things delivered with a phone call, they'd be less likely to go to the store themselves. This would directly cut into the store's foot traffic. This wasn't just about sharing the wealth. Leo was planning to cut the store owner out of his own customer base, making him completely dependent on the 718 delivery model. In the end, 718 would be the one dictating the profit margins. It was a classic open conspiracy. Even if the store owner saw it coming, he'd be forced to play along for the sake of profit. Chad felt a wave of relief that he was part of 718 and that Leo treated him like one of the crew. Shane and Mark weren't as perceptive as Chad. They couldn't see the deeper layers. They just thought it was a brilliant idea. "Leo, I'm going to talk to the store owner right now." Shane was a man of action. Once he had a plan, he moved. Leo shook his head. "Not so fast. Write up a proposal. Do a SWOT analysis. Go in with a plan. It'll make you look more professional, and he'll take you more seriously." Shane nodded, then asked, "What's a SWOT?" Leo threw his hands up. "When in doubt, Google it." Mark and Shane's tempers flared fast and cooled even faster. Just moments ago, they were arguing, and now they were sitting side by side at a laptop, peacefully looking up business analysis models. Chad watched Leo, hesitating for a moment before finally asking, "Leo, you're not just doing all this to sell snacks, are you? This kind of revenue is peanuts to you." Leo wasn't surprised by the question. Of the guys in the room, not counting himself, Chad was the most shrewd. Of course, that was only compared to his peers. Thankfully, he was a good guy. He was the best fighter among them, but always played the peacemaker. He was also the most considerate. "It's not just about snacks," Leo said. "Down the line, maybe we deliver meals, other things. The campus is a pilot program. We can figure out the operational model here. If it succeeds, we roll it out citywide, then nationwide." Chad was completely stunned. Using the university as a pilot for a national rollout. Leo's vision was massive. At that moment, he suddenly understood why brilliant girls like Chloe Jiang and Sophia Su were both drawn to Leo. If he were a girl, he wasn't sure he could resist either. He quickly shook his head. That was a dangerous thought. Leo's job was to provide the ideas. The rest was up to them. College was long, and he had plenty of time to burn. And compared to the backstabbing world of business, he much preferred the simple, untainted life of a university student. Mark and Shane worked on their proposal for a long time before finally stretching. "It's already dark. How about we go grab dinner and come back to finish?" Mark suggested. Shane and Chad had no objections. They all looked at Leo. He glanced at the time. It was past 7. "Time to go out." "I'm not going with you guys," he said. "And no, I'm not inviting you to come with me. Either." Mark rolled his eyes and gave him the finger. Leo just snorted at the gesture. Chad has a girlfriend. Shane has a target. What about you, Mark? Right, don't worry. So what if you're almost 20 and haven't found anyone you like? It's normal. Later on, you'll find that you probably never will. Mark felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if he'd been stabbed. He grabbed his buckwheat pillow, ready to hurl at Leo, but Leo was already out the door, moving with slick, effortless speed. Getting hit with a buckwheat pillow really hurt. The campus was even more crowded at night than during the day, filled with couples and groups of friends. Leo called Chloe only when he was standing under her dorm building. A number of other guys were also waiting downstairs, a mix of hopeful and dejected faces. While he was waiting, he saw a couple arguing. He couldn't make out what they were saying because a crowd of onlookers had already formed. He just barely heard a group of girls muttering something about a worthless cheater. That made him lose interest completely. Chloe was fashionably late. When she found him, she glanced at the dissipating crowd. What was going on over there? Leo slung an arm around her shoulder and steered her in the opposite direction. Some guy gave his girlfriend everything he had, and she still broke up with him. He's having a moment. Nothing to see here. Chloe blinked. Is that really what happened? What else could it be? Leo quickly changed the subject. You look really beautiful tonight. In the lamplight, he could see the corners of her mouth lift into a smile. When do I not look beautiful? She retorted playfully. You're always beautiful, he said smoothly. Chloe felt his tone was a bit perfunctory, but she was still pleased with the answer. She thought for a moment, then asked, When do you think I'm the most beautiful? Leo stopped walking and turned to face her, his eyes scanning her up and down. Chloe had grown accustomed to his unabashed gaze and just watched him quietly. Well, a wicked grin spread across Leo's face. I haven't seen it yet. Chloe was even more confused. Leo leaned in and whispered in her ear. When you're not wearing any clothes, of course. Natural, unadorned. That's true beauty. He then bolted. A truly angry Chloe had a mean foot stomp. Chloe, frozen in place, was both furious and mortified. She stomped her foot and then took off after him. Leo deliberately slowed down, holding out his hand to see if she would take it. She didn't hesitate, slipping her hand into his. What are you hungry for? He asked as they neared the campus exit. The food trucks and night market were gone now. The only options were the nearby restaurants, which severely limited students' choices. People complained, but their voices were too small to make a difference. As long as Chloe was with Leo, she didn't care what they ate. She held his hand, looped her arm through his, and leaned against him. How about we go for that blackened catfish place? She suggested tentatively. Leo glanced at her. There's a catfish place near campus? How come I don't know about it? Chloe shook her head. There isn't. Before he could object, she dangled her car keys in front of him. We'll go into the city. You're a clever little devil, aren't you? Drive all the way into Seattle for catfish. He sighed, a hint of guilt in his voice, and took the keys. All right, let's go. Chloe's smile widened, and she made a little yes gesture with her fingers. Her Land Rover was parked right by the school gate. As they approached, a few students were taking pictures of it with their flip phones. They quickly put them away, embarrassed when they saw Leo and Chloe. Chloe was used to it, but seeing the envy in the girl's eyes, Leo suddenly had an urge to buy a car. Do Ferrari and Porsche have any decent two-seater sports cars? He asked casually after they got in. Chloe was buckling her seatbelt. She wasn't sure why he was asking, but she answered, I think so. I've heard people talk about them. Why? Thinking of buying one. A sports car was expensive, but with Leo's current status, he could easily afford one. Leo's face broke into a mischievous grin. If I bought a sports car and left my number on the dashboard for parking emergencies, you think? He didn't have to finish. Chloe was glaring at him, her expression turning sour. No, he looked at her, his smile teasing. And why not? Chloe was at a loss for words, her lips forming a pout. Just, no, you can't. Seeing her adorable frustration, Leo stopped teasing her. He reached out and ruffled her hair, then started the car. All right, then I won't. Whatever you say. Hearing that, Chloe felt her heart melt. He had been the one to start it, to make her jealous, but in the end, his easy capitulation made her feel cherished. Leo turned on the car radio. It was a music program, an interview with a pop star. Her voice was distinctive and pleasant. After she sang a few lines of her new song, a cappella, the host asked, So that was the lead single from your new album? The pop star laughed. Yes, it's called Aurora, and it will be out very soon. I hope everyone will support it. After some fawning from the host, he finally asked, I hear that after the album release, you're planning a national tour? And the first stop is here in the Pacific Northwest. That's right, she said. Why start here? Is there a special reason? The singer paused. Is it something you can't talk about? The host prodded. This time, she answered directly. The fans there are so passionate. Also, I've never met the person who wrote the lyrics for The Strength Inside, the main song from my last album. He's from this area, and if I have the chance, I'd love to meet him. I really, really love those lyrics. Hearing this, Leo felt a pang of guilt, like a thief who'd been caught red-handed. He immediately changed the station. Chloe, however, was oblivious. Leo, she's coming on tour. Let's go see her. Her songs are so good. Leo kept his eyes on the road. You get me in a good mood, and I'll agree to anything. Chloe thought for a moment, then said, give me your hand. Leo slowed the car and held out his free hand. Blushing, Chloe took it and placed it on her own leg. A shame, really. It was autumn, and she was wearing jeans, which took away some of the fun. Thankfully, the roads were empty, and Leo was driving slowly. Happy now? She asked. Leo cleared his throat to hide his embarrassment. I'm not that kind of guy. I just genuinely want to go to the concert. When they arrived at a well-known seafood grill in the city, Leo reluctantly pulled his hand back. Chloe's cheeks were flushed, and she couldn't quite meet his eyes. We're here. Out you go. Huh? Oh. The nice thing about 2004 was that you could almost always find a parking spot on the street. Even though it was past 8 o'clock, the restaurant was packed. They found a small table, but it took a long time for a waiter to come over. Leo didn't waste time. 1 blackened catfish, spicy. 1 beer and a side of fries. Got it. While they waited, Chloe chattered away, trying to find things to talk about. The most frequent question was where he had been all this time. Over the phone, he kept putting her off, saying he'd tell her when he got back. He hadn't realized she would be so persistent. Finally, he gave in. You know Kevin Liu's rural charity project? He set up a production base out there. A TV crew went out to film a promotional special, so I went to help out. He added, oh, and he found a girlfriend there. She's great. When you have time, we should go visit. Chloe nodded enthusiastically. Okay, the conditions are a little rough, though, Leo continued. The TV only 2 channels, there's no cell service, and you have to heat water with firewood. Mosquitoes in the summer, freezing winds in the winter. The more he exaggerated the hardships, the more excited Chloe became. That sounds even better. I'd love to experience that kind of life. Leo's brain short-circuited. He'd laid it on that thick, and she wasn't put off at all. She actually wanted to go. He'd only been making conversation. He didn't want her to take it seriously. But he couldn't say that out loud. She'd kill him. Next time we have a chance, definitely, he said, non-committally. But Chloe was already planning the trip, holding his hand and mapping out what they'd need to bring, how to build a cooking fire, and so on. Leo listened completely stunned. The fish took a long time. Leo had almost finished his beer by the time it arrived. Chloe wanted to drink with him, but he deflected, joking that if she drank, no one could drive, and they'd have to get a hotel room. Chloe relented. He was right. You can't drink and drive, and it wasn't a good night for a motel. While they were eating, a few young guys walked in. Leo didn't pay them any mind until they headed toward their table and sat down at the one next to them. The leader casually tossed a set of car keys on the table and started talking loudly with his friend about making tens of thousands of dollars. He kept glancing over at Chloe, as if hoping to see a flicker of admiration in her eyes. He was disappointed. Chloe didn't look at them once. She was either eating or talking to Leo, cooing and asking him to get her a piece of fish as if no one else existed. The young man, feeling ignored, finally got up after downing a glass of beer and walked over. Hey man, having a drink? Mind if we join you? Only then did Leo and Chloe look up. Chloe, who was already stunning with her head down, was breathtaking when she looked up. The guy froze for a second. Can we? We're pretty much done, but maybe next time, Leo said, wiping his mouth. He had to give a guy some credit. At least he hadn't ignored him and gone straight for Chloe. He had some manners, but not many. The guy wasn't offended by the rejection. He kept smiling. No worries if you're done. We could just chat. Brother, you look young. Where do you work? Leo pointed to the university ID card on the table. The guy saw it and laughed. Oh, a top student from the U of O, my apologies. How about you two give me your number? I know that campus area like the back of my hand. And if you ever need a job or a side hustle, just let me know. Chloe frowned, her patience wearing thin. No, thank you. You enjoy your meal. We're leaving. She grabbed Leo's hand, ready to go. But the friends he brought with him weren't so agreeable. They stood up, blocking their path. Come on, beautiful, we're just talking. What's the rush? Leo felt a headache coming on. Why do you run into these types everywhere? He pulled Chloe behind him. What we do is none of your business, he said, his voice cold. If you like posturing so much, you should come back as a pair of pants in your next life. The man's face flushed with anger. Kid, watch your mouth. This isn't over. You can either stay and have some fun with us, or you can leave on a stretcher. Chloe, standing behind Leo, wasn't scared at all. She knew he would protect her. Leo ignored their threats, shielding Chloe as they walked out. The leader sighed and shook his head at his friends. Once Leo and Chloe were gone, he pulled out his phone. Bro, they left. The guy didn't ditch the girl. The voice on the other end just said, understood, and hung up. Down the street from the restaurant, several men sat in a black Cadillac Escalade. One of them, having just hung up the phone, made another call. Boss, we just ran the test. White didn't abandon the young lady. Ethan Jiang would never let Chloe be alone in a strange city. She was the apple of his eye, even if she didn't know it. It was late, but he was still in his office, feet propped up on his desk. Before the call, his expression had been grim. Now it had softened slightly. If the circumstances weren't so dire, he never would have tested Leo. He alone knew the reasons why. After a moment of silence, Ethan turned to the person standing beside him. Those projects he was involved in, have they all been dealt with? How much did we lose? In our current capital, how long can we last? The more Leo thought about it after leaving the restaurant, the more something fell off. But he couldn't put his finger on what. He'd encountered his share of punks and thugs, but this one had been almost reasonable. And the way those guys had looked at Chloe was with awe, not a hint of disrespect. She was clearly their target, but they hadn't said a single inappropriate word to her. Were thugs these days really so well-mannered? Leo didn't buy it. He hated this feeling of confusion. After a moment, he pulled out his phone, snapped a quick photo of the guys, and sent it to Spike in a picture message. Leo, are you okay? Chloe asked, concerned by his silence. Leo shook his head. He wasn't going to tell her about this just yet. It's getting late. Back to campus, or... Chloe pouted, probably lamenting how quickly the time had passed. Let's just go back then. Sensing her mood, Leo put an arm around her shoulder. I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow. What do you want? Pumpkin spice oatmeal. Okay. Hearing that Leo would bring her breakfast tomorrow erased all her negative feelings. Going back was fine. Tomorrow seemed much more promising. On the way back to campus, Chloe drove while telling Leo about all the amusing things that had happened at school. She mentioned Yvonne Yuan the most, how she was getting asked out in public 2 or 3 times a day, how her classes were always packed with guys who had signed up just to see her. While talking, she kept hinting that she'd received a few love letters herself. Watching her earnest expression, Leo held back a laugh and played along. You're even better than her. You must have even more admirers, right? Chloe kept her eyes on the road, but her good mood was obvious. No, not really, she said, feigning modesty. Leo threw his hands up. It's fine if you do. I expected it before we even came to college. That's why I brought Spike to Oregon with me. Chloe looked confused. Leo smiled and explained, if anyone gets any bright ideas, he could just beat them up. Spike's a great fighter. Back in high school, we ruled our street. No one dared mess with us. They chatted all the way back, arriving at the university close to 11. The dorms were already locked. To Leo's surprise, he saw a small whiteboard outside the girls' dorm. Late? Just knock. The RA is on duty 24/7. No one gets locked out. Leo sighed. No wonder the girls at this university were hard to fool. The classic go to a late movie, get some food, and then say it's too late to get back into the dorm routine was useless here. Leo, the proposal is done. Want to take a look? Back in the dorm, Shane pointed to his laptop. Leo wasn't very interested. He shook his head. Go for it. You guys are the best. He headed to the balcony to wash up. He hadn't slept well the night before. He'd been busy all day, and he had to get up early to buy oatmeal. He was exhausted. All he wanted was to crawl into bed. But his roommates had zero tact. Just as he was drifting off, Mark got sentimental. Leo, I'm really glad I met you. Leo pulled his pillow over his ears. I'm glad I met too, he grumbled. Mainly because it's not like I have a choice now that we've already met. Despite being yelled at, Mark just chuckled. He was about to say more, but Leo cut him off. I'd be even happier if you'd just shut up right now. Shane had just cleared his throat, ready to tell Leo he'd finally gotten Yvonne's number and asked for advice on what to say. But hearing that, he wisely kept his mouth shut. The next morning, Leo brushed his teeth, looking exhausted. He couldn't understand it. It wasn't even spring, yet someone in his room was already chirping. Mark's teeth grinding was fine. He was used to it. Chad's occasional lovesick giggles were tolerable. But what was with Shane sighing dramatically for half the night? Leo wasn't going to take it. After brushing his teeth, he went from bed to bed, slapping the frames. Leo, what's wrong? Mark was the first to wake up, looking dazed. What happened to all those ambitious goals from the beginning of the semester? Leo declared. Everyone get up. We're going for a run. Mark immediately fell back down. You're insane, he mumbled, pulling the covers over his head. Chad got up. He was always disciplined, but he still shot Leo a resentful glare. Only Shane was dead to the world. Leo called his name twice with no response. Finally, he leaned in and whispered, "I heard Yvonne eats breakfast on the second floor of the dining hall." It was like a magic password. Shane shot upright. The first thing he did was grab his phone to check for messages. Seeing none, his face fell with disappointment, but he still looked at Leo. "What did you just say?" Leo slapped his forehead, sighed, and walked away. This kid was a lost cause. Chad was trying not to laugh. "What are you laughing at, Chad?" "At you. Could you be any more obvious?" Room 718. A den of drama kings. People's joys are not all the same. Chloe's joy for the day began when Leo handed her a warm cup of pumpkin spice oatmeal. "Are you coming to class with me today?" she asked, sitting on a bench near her dorm, sipping the oatmeal. Leo shrugged. "Do I look like I have nothing better to do?" Chloe's big eyes were serious. "It's not that you look like it. You are that idol." "Congratulations, you are correct. But I still don't want to go." Hearing his playful tone, Chloe pouted but didn't press him. He was a free spirit. Could she really expect him to sit quietly in a classroom? Maybe in the summer, when he could appreciate the scenery. But now, there was no point in suffering. "What are you going to do, then?" she asked. "Catch up on sleep." Leo yawned as he spoke. "You're the only person who could get me up this early to buy breakfast." Chloe's heart warmed, but she couldn't help but ask, "What about Sophia?" The question hung in the air. The yawn died in Leo's throat. He looked at Chloe's anxious face and took a deep breath. "Do you really want to know?" Chloe regretted asking, but now that she needed the answer. She bit her lip and nodded. "She gets up earlier and usually eats breakfast by herself." After he said it, he felt Chloe's wary gaze on him. "How do you know that?" Leo froze. Chloe was getting harder to fool. He reached out and patted her head, changing the subject. "Are you going to finish that or not?" Chloe pouted. "I'm eating." The little spat had chased away Leo's sleepiness. They say unconventional problems require unconventional solutions. But how is he supposed to solve the problem of a stable triangle? Without a good plan, he couldn't afford to gamble. He had too much to lose now. Fortunately, Chloe didn't seem inclined to dwell on the issue. After finishing her oatmeal, she pursed her lips at him. Leo understood, taking out a napkin to wipe her mouth. "All right, I'm heading to class. When will you come find me?" Leo thought for a moment. "This afternoon. I'll pick you up after your last class." Chloe had no objection and happily agreed. As she left, Leo borrowed her car keys. Just as he was about to leave, his phone rang. "Leo, when are you getting here?" "On my way." It was Spike. The task Leo had assigned him was complete. Worried about waking Leo, he had only sent a text last night with the basics. Leo had seen it when he woke up and just replied, "Let's talk in person." Spike's office was starting to look more like a real office. He'd even added a bookshelf and, per Leo's suggestion, lined it with a few impressive-looking books. He couldn't understand them, but they made for a good display. "So that's the gist of it," Spike said after finishing his report, then wisely shut his mouth. He could tell Leo was not in a good mood. Being deliberately tested by someone, it was a terrible feeling. Leo's brow was furrowed. "That doesn't make sense," he muttered. He pulled out his phone and dialed Ethan Jiang. They had dealt with each other many times and had a good read on one another. Ethan wouldn't have done this unless it was a special situation. The phone rang for a long time, but no one answered. Leo's frown deepened. Just as he was about to dial again, a call came through. It was Ethan. For reasons he couldn't explain, Leo felt a wave of relief seeing his name on the screen. "Mr. Jiang, I was in a meeting. What's up?" Leo dispensed with the pleasantries. "Did something happen?" There was a long silence on the other end. They were both smart men. Ethan realized Leo must have figured something out from the incident last night. "I'm sorry about last night," Ethan finally said. Before he could continue, Leo interrupted. "You don't need to say that. Just tell me if there's anything I can do to help." Leo wasn't an ungrateful person. Ethan had been instrumental in Rush's success. In a society that ran on connections, trying to expand a brand nationwide without a guide was a fool's errand. Ethan chuckled. "Just help me take care of Chloe. That's enough. It's no big deal." Leo didn't believe him. He had started hiring people to test Leo's loyalty to Chloe, and he was saying it was no big deal, but it wasn't his place to pry. "You can count on me for that," he said, then added, "If there's anything else I can do, anything at all, just say the word." Perhaps sensing that Leo's concern was genuine, Ethan explained, "There's nothing to worry about in the short term. And even if something does happen, I'll make sure I'm clear of it." Leo believed that. It was like Ethan's own philosophy regarding Rush. If it did well, he was happy to benefit from it. But if it went bankrupt, that was a separate matter. Rush was Rush, and what did that have to do with Mr. White? In the future, corporate moguls would perfect this art. Their companies would be drowning in debt, but it wouldn't affect their comfortable retirements overseas. Just as they were about to hang up, Ethan seemed to remember something. Actually, there's one thing you can help me with. Oh, that redevelopment project for the Mill District, Ethan explained. Make a big scene. A lot of my current trouble is being caused by that person. Leo affirmed that he understood. Even if Ethan hadn't asked, he would have done it anyway. And don't tell Chloe, Ethan added as a final instruction. Same as before, Mr. Jiang. You can count on me. I won't let her have to worry about things she shouldn't at her age. Good. After hanging up, Leo felt a sense of relief. Problems that money could solve weren't really problems. The real problem was how to earn enough money to solve them. Leo, Kyle Yin is here. Should I let him in? Spike had been standing by quietly. He only spoke after Leo finished his call. Yeah. Spike went and opened the door. Kyle had cut his wild hair and dyed it back to a normal color. Leo, he said, his tone respectful. Spike's admiration for Leo had rubbed off on him, especially after Leo had paid him generously for his help last time. Leo got straight to the point. The people who sold their houses for cheap, are they making trouble now? And how many residents are currently unhappy with the compensation offers? Kyle had grown up in Mill District and knew the situation well. He answered immediately. They're protesting, making a lot of noise, but no one's listening to them. The compensation policy. I don't know how to describe it. Leo looked at him and offered him a cigarette. Just say what's on your mind. Kyle's expression was conflicted. He held the cigarette for a long time without lighting it. It's not good. A lot of people can't accept it, but there's nothing they can do if they don't. Leo blew a smoke ring and leaned back on the sofa. After a moment, he turned to Spike. Do you have anyone you trust completely? Spike wasn't sure why Leo was asking, but he nodded. What's the plan? Yeah. Leo nodded back. Kyle, from now on, you don't need to report to me about the Mill District. I will do my best to fight for the residents to get the benefits they deserve. Hearing this, Kyle looked up, his expression a complex mix of emotions. His reputation in the district wasn't great, but he still cared about the people there. Seeing their helplessness was painful. Thank you, Leo. Oh. Leo shook his head. It's too early for thank yous. Right now, you just need to remember one thing. You didn't see me today. We did not talk about the Mill District. Understand? Kyle nodded emphatically. Yes, yes. After Kyle left, Spike asked, Leo, what are you planning? Leo trusted Spike completely and saw no reason to hide it from him. The direction of this thing is unpredictable, and the person behind it is not someone I can afford to provoke right now. No one knows how it will end. So, we have to protect ourselves first. And the best way to do that is to appear not to be involved at all. From Leo's tone, Spike understood the gravity of the situation. He nodded. Don't worry, Leo. I'll make things clear. You don't have to show your face. I can be the messenger. Leo understood what Spike meant. He was offering to take the fall if things went south. Leo appreciated the sentiment, but his conscience wouldn't allow it. Spike had already taken a metaphorical bullet for him in their past life. He couldn't bear the thought of his friend suffering again because of him, but he didn't say it out loud. With Spike's personality, it was better left unsaid. He just gave him instructions. Get a few guys to infiltrate the demolition negotiation teams. The ones with the worst attitudes. I want you to escalate the tension, but avoid any physical conflict. No one gets hurt. You get what I mean? Then have Kyle quietly communicate with the residents. Tell them this is a society of laws. In the end, they will definitely get what they deserve. Leo's voice dropped to a whisper, so only Spike could hear. When he was done, Spike nodded and left the office, leaving Leo alone. Sigh. Leo shook his head. His original plan was to partner with Ethan Jiang and bid on the redevelopment project. But after learning a bit about the situation from Ethan, he had decisively abandoned that idea. Ethan's inability to get involved publicly was one reason. The other, more important reason was that their opponent was too powerful. So powerful that Ethan wouldn't even tell Leo who it was, probably fearing it would make him timid. Since this rival was so formidable, their plan couldn't be just to make a quick buck on the property compensation. The redevelopment project itself was their real goal. They had already acquired some houses. Now they just needed the rest of the residents to sign. And that was Leo's only opening. He felt a pang of guilt for using the residents. But then again, he rationalized if he wasn't involved, they would probably end up in a much worse situation. In a way, that made him a force for good, didn't it? It was the only way he could console himself. It was almost noon when Leo left the gaming lounge. He didn't go back to campus. He drove Chloe's Land Rover straight to the Rush Sportswear regional office. He could ask Spike to do the dirty work, but when it came to spending money, he had to go to Laura Een. Laura was surprised by his sudden visit. He found her in her office, eating lunch. Braised ribs? You made these? Leo asked, surprised. Laura was refreshingly honest. She shrugged. I don't have those skills. Besides, I'm so busy every day. Who has time to cook? That's fair, Leo said. And a good thing you said no. Otherwise, I might have given you more work. Seeing that he wasn't joking, Laura rolled her eyes. Boss, you're so sincere. Are you too lazy to even pretend anymore? Leo thought for a moment. I could try pretending again next time, if you'd like. While he spoke, Laura finished her meal and started cleaning up. So, boss, what brings you here today? What are your orders? Leo never showed up without a reason, and it usually meant more work. Laura was used to it. Leo saw no reason to beat around the bush. The small talk was just to let her finish eating. Now that she was done, it was time for business. The cash from the other regions has been consolidated here, right? How much do we have on hand? He had arranged for this before he left for Oak Creek with Sophia. The headquarters in Riverbend had sent him a financial report, but he hadn't had a chance to look at it. When it came to business, Laura's playful demeanor vanished, replaced by a serious one. A total of $23 million. We used $7 million for that plot of land, and construction is estimated to be another $3 million plus. The land was a plot Leo had chosen himself on the edge of the university district. It was a 3 to 5 minute bike ride from most of the campuses. It was a bit desolate now, but it had great potential for development. Leo intended to turn the area into a new university night market. Construction had already begun. Leo nodded, then asked, "Have you contacted the bicycle manufacturers?" Laura opened a desk drawer and pulled out a folder. "Here are the quotes and design proposals from several factories. Take a look. They're bringing samples over tomorrow, so we can make a final decision. Are you coming to see them?" Leo briefly flipped through the proposals. The prices were similar, and the designs were all fairly standard. With no major differences in the products, the decision would likely come down to which company was more accommodating. Leo had no intention of interfering. He closed the folder and put it back on her desk. "I won't be here. I haven't been to class in a long time. I should probably go see what my professors look like so I don't bribe the wrong person at finals." Laura laughed. Leo's way of doing things was always unpredictable. "All right then, I'll contact you after we've made a decision." As they were talking, there was a knock on the office door. Laura glanced at Leo, and seeing his nod, she said, "Come in." Leo sat up straight on the sofa. Laura's executive assistant walked in, dressed in a sharp business suit, her hair in an elegant updo. She was very easy on the eyes. She recognized Leo, but didn't know his exact identity. She gave him a polite, professional smile as a greeting. "Ms. Een," she said, "a Mr. Zhao is here to see you." After she spoke, Leo noticed a distinct change in Laura's expression. After a moment, she said, "I see. Have him wait for me in the conference room." After the assistant left, Leo raised an eyebrow with a mischievous grin. "Ms. Een, which Mr. Zhao is this? Is something going on?" Laura wasn't getting any younger. It was about time she settled down. But Laura just sighed wearily. "He's the younger son from the Hanlon Group. We have some business dealings. It's hard to just turn him away." Leo didn't care about his employees' private lives. He just offered a reminder. "Laura, don't compromise yourself for the sake of work. Rush may be small, but we're not so desperate that we need to sacrifice our employees." Laura glared at him. "What kind of person do you take me for?" All right. Go on, get busy." Hearing his dismissal, Leo just chuckled, stood up, and left. On his way out, he deliberately glanced into the conference room. He only saw the back of this Mr. Zhao, but the massive bouquet of roses on the table was impossible to miss. He didn't think much of it until his phone vibrated. It was a text from Laura. "My relationship with Carter Zhao is purely business. Nothing else." Leo smiled and texted back a simple K. They were both smart. His earlier words were a reminder disguised as concern. Keep work and life separate. He didn't want her life to affect his business, and he didn't want the business to ruin her life. Laura had a lot of power now, and Leo trusted her precisely because she was smarter than most. She understood the importance of distance. The Hanlon Group. Leo murmured to himself. The name sounded more and more familiar. The afternoon was perfect, the autumn sun casting a warm, lazy glow. Leo had intended to go to class, but after a quick check of his schedule, he realized he had the afternoon free. What a shame, he thought with a grin. Since he was free, he figured he might as well drag his crew from room 718 out to the grassy hill, just off campus, to soak up some sun. The slope was dotted with students. With 4 of them, they couldn't play poker, so they settled for a fast-paced card game they'd been in lately. Leo, however, was terrible at it. After losing a few hands, he was ready to quit. "Hey, handsome, you guys play Mafia?" Just as Leo was about to make a run for it, a voice called out from nearby. He turned and saw a familiar group. It was Holly 1 and her 3 roommates. "Nope," Leo said, his refusal blunt. But Shane Xie immediately perked up. I do. Count me in. He scooted closer to their group. Don't worry, he said, winking at Holly. If I'm the killer, I'll never target you. His cheesy line made Holly and her friends giggle. They gestured for Leo's group to join them. The rules are super simple, one of Holly's friends said. Yeah, you'll pick it up after a couple of rounds, Shane added eagerly. When it had just been the guys, Mark Leong had been just as talkative as Shane. Now, surrounded by girls, he clammed up, suddenly too shy to say a word. Leo wasn't particularly interested, but he couldn't fight the tide of enthusiasm from everyone else. With a sigh, he let himself be roped into a game. A girl Leo didn't recognize, who was cute enough, started narrating as the moderator. Just as he'd promised, when Shane was chosen as a killer, he refused to vote for Holly, even after she'd basically outed herself as a civilian. Leo couldn't watch anymore. He rolled his eyes. Why don't you two just get a private game? Holly just laughed good-naturedly, while Shane looked a little embarrassed. Still, he pressed his luck. So, is that an option? Holly, maybe we could go play our own game. Even Chad Xiong had heard enough, turning his head to mutter under his breath. 1 minute this guy was mooning over Yvonne Yuan, the next he was glued to Holly. The man had no shame. Holly didn't refuse, a playful smile on her face. Well, it's not entirely out of the question. At that, everyone, including Leo, turned to look at her. Really? Shane's face lit up with a hopeful grin. In his mind, Yvonne was his #1 priority, but Holly was a very close second. Really? She said sweetly. But let's talk about it later. How much later? Shane pressed. February 30th, Holly said, then clapped her hands. Come on, next round, next round. Everyone struggled to hold back their laughter. Shane just sighed. He had a long road ahead of him. After another round, the group's interest waned. Shane gazed at a nearby construction site. I hear they're building a new food court over there, he said. Wonder when it'll be finished. The sun had brought a rosy blush to Holly's cheeks. Who knows, she murmured, but I'm looking forward to it. The food on campus is so bad. She let out a small sigh. The University of Oregon has it so much better. Colleges had their own pecking order, and the subsidies they received were different. U of O's dining halls were famously several tiers above any of the other state schools. Hearing her comment, Leo shot her a strange look. How would you know? You've eaten in their dining halls. Holly realized she'd said too much and stuck out her tongue playfully. Wow, what a beautiful day, she said, changing the subject. Just then, Shane chimed in. Hey, Leo, isn't Sophia at U of O? Leo was about to say yes when his phone rang. He pulled it out and saw Chloe's name. He remembered she was supposed to be in class right now. What's up? He answered. Chloe's voice was bubbly. My professor got sick, so class is canceled. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. Since she was willing to come to him, Leo was happy to be lazy. The autumn sun really did make you feel indolent. The grassy hill outside the side gate of campus. He gave her the location and hung up. Holly was watching him with a look of mild disdain. Sophia? Or? She was clearly well-versed in the saga of Leo White. Chloe, Leo said simply. Is she coming here? At the mention of Chloe's name, the atmosphere shifted. You couldn't help it. She had an intimidating presence that made everyone else feel a little inadequate. Yeah, Leo said, offering no further explanation as he leaned back to enjoy the sun. Chloe was fast. She spotted Leo waving and came jogging over, a bright smile on her face, her ponytail bouncing behind her. For a moment, Leo was sure half the guys on the hill were staring, mesmerized. He had to admit, he loved that vibrant energy of hers. This was what being young was all about. Hi, everyone. In front of others, Chloe was always poised and gracious. Holly, sensing the shift, knew her moment was over. She said a quick hello and then gathered her roommates to leave. Leo watched her go, a thoughtful expression on his face, and only snapped out of it when he heard Chloe's sour little murmur in his ear. She's long gone, you know. The acidic tone was so thick that even Shane and the guys felt it. Hey, Leo, we're gonna head back too, Shane said quickly. Yeah, later, man. Leo waved them off. See ya. With the audience gone, Chloe settled in beside him, resting her head comfortably on his shoulder. You busy tonight? Leo asked after a moment. Chloe snuggled into his arm. No, good, he said, pulling 2 movie tickets from his pocket. Come see a movie with me. Chloe's eyes widened in surprise. She practically threw herself at him, and Leo, caught off balance, tumbled back onto the grass with her laughing on top of him. Yes, she said, her voice filled with pure, simple joy. It was the first time he'd ever asked her to a movie. Looking at her innocent, happy face, Leo gently tapped her on the nose. He wished he could stay this happy forever. She seemed to be used to the little gesture, leaning into it with a contented sigh. All right, you, he said softly. Let me up. I gotta use the restroom, then we can go. Chloe finally stood up, brushing grass off her clothes. She noticed the lingering stares from other students on the hill, and a blush crept up her cheeks. But she loved this feeling. Leo said he was going to the restroom, but he was really just finding a place to make a call. That administrator, Mr. Ho, had helped him out before, and Leo had promised to treat him a dinner back in Riverbend. Not as a businessman, but as a junior showing respect. Mr. Ho, he said into the phone, I hope I'm not disturbing you. Since his return, Leo had only been to the movies twice. The first time was an outdoor screening in his hometown with Sophia. It was so crowded they couldn't do anything but sit there and dutifully watch the entire film. The second time was now. Perhaps because it was a weekday, the theater was mostly empty. The center section seats Leo had chosen were deserted. In the back 2 rows, a few couples were wrapped around each other, busy with their own agendas, a silent pact of mutual non-interference in place. Chloe was half leaning against Leo, a bucket of popcorn in her lap. It seemed like she was the only one in the entire theater actually watching the movie. Leo had no idea what was happening on screen. He tried to make a few subtle moves, but Chloe had gently caught his hand, whispering something about security cameras. Did theaters in 2004 even have night vision cameras? Leo didn't know, but he didn't push it. If they did, he had no desire to put on a live show for some security guard. That was a little too creepy. He let out a yawn and rested his head against Chloe's, drifting off to sleep. He didn't wake up until the credits were rolling and Chloe was gently shaking him. It's over. Leo rubbed his eyes, realizing they were the only ones left in the theater. He stretched languidly and opened his arms. Chloe understood immediately, smiling as she fell into his embrace and planted a soft kiss on his cheek. All right, Leo said, satisfied. Let's go. It was past 7 by the time they left the theater, and the streets were bustling. Chloe must have noticed his fatigue. Have you been really tired lately? She asked, her voice soft with concern. We could just go back, so you can get some rest. Leo put on a long-suffering face. I can't stay in my dorm room anymore, he grumbled. One guy snores like a freight train, the other talks in his sleep. Seeing his pained expression, Chloe offered a tentative suggestion. Well, maybe you could find an apartment off campus. She'd brought it up before, but Leo had shot her down, insisting that dorms were the true college experience. Seeing him like this, she decided to bring it up again. This time, Leo didn't immediately say no. He thought for a moment. I think you have a light schedule tomorrow, right? Want to go look at some places? Yes. Chloe's face lit up. Then she asked, how big are we looking for? Leo shrugged. Either a 3-bedroom or a 1-bedroom. At his words, Chloe's smile vanished. She pursed her lips and fell silent, a small cloud of disappointment settling over her. But Leo didn't have the energy to address it. He had a mountain of his own problems to deal with, things he couldn't share with anyone. They walked the rest of the way to her dorm in silence. As they stood under the lamplight at the entrance, her mood seemed to lift slightly. She looked at him and murmured, You jerk. Don't you dare leave me behind in the future. Leo blinked, a little confused by her sudden declaration, but he nodded out of instinct. Of course not. Chloe turned and walked away, giving him a small wave over her shoulder without looking back. After leaving the women's dorms, Leo didn't head back to his room. Instead, he went straight to Richie Ho's dorm. Richie, he said, getting straight to the point, our class hasn't had a group activity in a while. Let's organize something, get everyone together. Richie looked surprised. I thought you weren't interested in class events. Leo shook his head. That was the old me. It has nothing to do with the new me. Get in touch with Holly and organize it together. Let's go to the Veterans Memorial Park. It'll be educational. Afterwards, we can all have lunch, maybe go sing some karaoke in the afternoon. Richie sighed, looking troubled. Not everyone has money to burn like you, Leo. We just collected class dues, but we can't afford an outing like that. Leo waved a dismissive hand. The costs for this event are on me. At that, Richie's roommates all turned to stare. Seriously, Leo? One of them asked, incredulous. Seriously? I genuinely think our class should connect more, Leo added. Otherwise, we'll all become strangers. Well, if Leo's saying that, Richie, why don't you call Holly and ask? Another roommate urged. I'll ask, Richie said, then picked up the dorm's landline to dial Holly's room. In an era before cell phones were universal, dorm rooms still had them. After he hung up, Richie stared at Leo, a suspicious look on his face. He felt like Leo had an ulterior motive but couldn't figure out what it was. She agreed. He finally said, she'll handle talking to the girls. And she said thank you. No need, Leo said with a wave. After settling the matter, Leo chatted with Richie for a few more minutes before leaving. Given his lazy nature, he wouldn't go to this much trouble unless it was absolutely necessary. And right now it was Holly's father, Mr. Ho, had declined his dinner invitation, vaguely mentioning that his own father's death anniversary was approaching and something about the Veterans Memorial. Leo wasn't some clueless kid. He understood the message. Honestly, he had no interest in the melodramatic sagas of these wealthy families. But sometimes, you had no choice but to get involved. That was life. Just as Leo reached the door to his room, 718, his phone rang. It was Spike. Leo, there's something. I think I should tell you. What is it? Leo asked, a sense of unease settling over him. A call from Spike at this hour was usually not good news. A friend of mine got drunk, Spike said, his voice low, and told me some stuff about the Mill District. For the residents who won't sign the relocation papers. Somebody's setting them up. At first, Leo's brow furrowed in concern. But as Spike continued, a slow, predatory grin spread across his face. Leo, you still there? Spike asked after a moment of silence. Yeah, I'm here. I get it, Leo said. And listen, don't tell anyone else about this. After hanging up, Leo let out a low whistle. The big shots these days were vicious, truly willing to do whatever it took, leaving no escape for the little guy. According to Spike, someone was planning to lure the holdouts into a casino. The rest was easy to imagine. The methods were old, but they were effective. Gambling was the easiest way to get someone hooked, and in any era, it was the fastest way to make them lose everything. Their home, their family. Once they were drowning in high-interest debt, they'd have no choice but to accept the compensation package. Now that Leo knew their strategy, his response was simple. He would follow the thread, unraveling it layer by layer. All he had to do was leak the story to the media at the right time, and the problem would solve itself. His original plan was to stage a scene of a forced demolition to stir up public opinion and put his opponents in a no-win situation. But there were too many variables, and a story like that could easily be suppressed. Besides, it was a common enough occurrence that it might not generate enough heat. But a story about predatory lenders and gambling dens destroying families, leaving them ruined and scattered, that was different. Once public opinion fermented to a certain point, no amount of powerful connections could help. At the very least, they'd have to find a high-level scapegoat to take the fall for the people behind the scenes. Leo didn't expect to topple a titan with one move. He just wanted to rattle them, to take some of the pressure off Ethan Jiang. And if he could make some money in the process, all the better. But he had to do it all quietly. Otherwise, he'd be the one getting burned. Leo, come pick me up. The next morning, Chloe's call jolted Leo from his sleep. For a split second, his instinct was to hang up. Sleep was sacred. But then Chloe added, you promised we'd go look at apartments today. Hearing that, Leo shot upright in bed. A 3-bedroom or a 1-bedroom. The fact that she not only remembered but was actively reminding him was a very good sign. He quickly moved his thumb away from the end call button, terrified of an accidental press. Okay, wait for me, he said, already scrambling out of bed. From the moment he answered the phone to the moment he was out the door, Leo took exactly 2 minutes, a testament to a man's efficiency. 4 non-essential tasks, there was no need to be long-lasting. He got downstairs to see Chloe already waiting, a bag of fresh breakfast in her hand. Here for you. She paused when she saw him, a flicker of surprise on her face. That was fast. There were a few new condominium buildings on the outskirts of the university town. Even though they were move-in ready, their location meant that sales were slow. The sales office was practically deserted, and Leo couldn't help but feel a cynical sense of satisfaction. You ignore me now, but you won't be able to afford me later. That was the story of real estate. The prices in the greater Seattle-Tacoma area hadn't seen the insane boom of places like New York or San Francisco yet, but they had already multiplied several times over. The area around the university would eventually see the biggest jump, precisely because it was so cheap right now. As they entered the sales office, a realtor immediately greeted them. She didn't treat them any differently because of their age, maintaining a professional smile. Are you here to see some properties? She asked politely. When Leo nodded, her smile grew wider. She handed them 2 cups of water and continued. If you don't mind me asking, are you looking for an investment or a place to live? And what size unit are you considering? Chloe pouted, staying silent. On the way over, Leo had made it clear. He was the one buying, and she was to interfere as little as possible. But Chloe had her own little plan. I'm not living with you, she thought. As soon as you pick a unit, I'm buying the one next door. Leo took a sip of water. Let's start by looking at the 3 bedrooms, he said calmly. The realtor was professional, and the process was smooth. They saw several model homes, but when it came time to talk price, Leo said he needed to go home and think about it. It was a lie, of course. He needed to get Sophia's opinion, but he couldn't say that out loud. He'd get killed. He'd get killed. The realtor had heard similar lines countless times and could only manage a patient sigh. Of course. Please give me a call when you've had a chance to consider it. Leo was pleased with her attitude. Definitely. As they left the sales office, Chloe linked her arm through his. Do you want to check out any other buildings? Leo shook his head. No, that one was pretty good. I have something I need to take care of. Can I drop you back at school first? Though she was a little disappointed, Chloe could tell he was genuinely busy. He'd been texting nonstop or looking at the apartments. She decided not to cling. Okay, then. Leo walked Chloe to the campus gate and left. He really did have something to do. Spike was already waiting for him. The moment Leo was out of sight, Chloe pulled out her phone and called the realtor. Hello, I was the one who was just in looking at apartments, she said. If that gentleman comes back, could you please let me know? Once he confirms which unit he's buying, please hold the one next to it for me. The realtor was thrilled to have a sale fall in her lap like this. But then, Chloe sighed heavily. Actually, she said, her voice full of meaning, you might need to hold two. She was incredibly smart. It was only in front of Leo that she played the part of the sweet, clueless girl. My friend only mentioned it once, Spike said, speaking in a low voice next to Leo. When I asked him about it later, he clammed up. If it's really like he said, should we tell Kyle? Get him to give the people over there a heads up. Spike had grown up in the Mill District. He knew the struggles of the working class. He was furious when he heard about the plot. If he hadn't thought Leo had his own plan, he would have contacted Kyle immediately. But Leo shook his head. It wasn't that he was cold-blooded. The people behind this have a million ways to ruin a family. Right now, at least we know the method they're planning to use. If we warn everyone, they'll just switch tactics, and that will definitely make them more cautious. Spike considered it and realized he was right. So, what's your plan, Leo? Leo got straight to the point. Are Gabby XIN and her brother back at work yet? When Spike nodded, Leo continued. That guy who told you about this yesterday, what's your relationship with him? We're drinking buddies. Not super close. Back when I was broke, I bought him dinner for a few days. Spike had always been a loyal friend. If he saw someone in trouble, he'd help them out. Because of that, he had a wide circle of friends and a lot of connections. Leak some information to your friend, Leo instructed. Tell him Gabby's brother, Gabe, is a gambling addict, and that he just came into some money. Spike felt like he understood, but he was still a little fuzzy on the details. He looked at Leo, confused. You mean? Leo explained. We got that house in the Mill District, right? Have Gabe pretend to be the owner. Give him 50 grand and tell him to go lose it. Losing the money is one part of it. The other is to see if he can get inside their operation, plant a bug in their boss's office, something like that. He should be good at that kind of sneaky stuff. Leo didn't have connections for this sort of thing, so he had to use the most straightforward method. When Leo finished, Spike was surprisingly moved. He thought Leo was doing all this for the people of the Mill District. If Gabe's story was tragic enough, and they publicized it, it would serve as a powerful warning to the other residents, preventing them from falling into the same trap. If Leo knew what Spike was thinking, he would have slapped him across the face. Yeah, you know me so well. After arranging things with Spike, Leo called Sophia. 2 things, he said. First, I need the contact info for some reporters from the local tabloids. The kind who are willing to risk it all for, no, not for their careers, for justice. Leo caught himself, realizing how shallow he sounded. There were still people out there who wanted to do good without seeking fame or fortune. Okay, I'll ask around, Sophia said. Second thing, Leo continued, his tone shifting. You're coming with me to look at apartments this afternoon. You have to come, no excuses. Sophia wasn't bothered by his forceful tone in the slightest. Her voice was still cheerful. Okay, River Bend, Washington, the Jiang Corporation. A sharp crash echoed from Ethan Jiang's office. Is that really what he said? Ethan's face was ashen, his voice dangerously cold. Next to him stood a middle-aged man in a suit, his own expression grim. Yes, he must have known all along. They're planning to build an airport nearby, and those parcels are all industrial land. The man trailed off. Huh, Ethan let out a bitter laugh. So, you're telling me we paid commercial real estate prices for hundreds of acres of industrial land? Land with zero potential for appreciation. If he hadn't trusted that person so completely, Ethan never would have made such a colossal mistake. But now wasn't the time for regret. Can we unload it? He asked after a moment. The man beside him shook his head with a wry smile. We've listed it, but there are no inquiries. And there's one more thing. Ethan knew it was pointless to dwell on it. He forced himself to calm down. What is it? The condo development we're building in L. There's been a minor accident. A worker fell on the job. He's in the hospital now. The city requires us to halt all work until we pass a full safety inspection. That project was already behind schedule. With this, We might not be able to deliver the units on time. Ethan crossed his legs. One thing after another. They're really not giving us any room to breathe. He vented for a moment, then his expression hardened. That's our first project in L. No matter what, we have to ensure it's delivered on schedule. The middle-aged man nodded. Then he spoke cautiously. The commercial street we have for sale in the Seattle area, the Hamlin Group, seems very interested. Should we engage with them? Ethan didn't speak. He just shot the man a glacial look. I'm sorry, I overstepped, the man said, immediately apologizing. Ethan waved his hand, dismissing him. Once the door closed, his face grew even darker. Each of his subordinates handled a different part of the business. The man who had just left was only responsible for one sector, and it was already plagued with problems. The other sectors weren't faring much better. But Ethan kept that knowledge to himself. There was no need to create unnecessary panic. And compared to external threats, his internal troubles were an even bigger headache. But now wasn't the time to worry about that. Carter Zhao, the Hamlin Group. Ethan muttered the names under his breath. I give you an inch, and you try to take a mile. Fine. If it comes down to it, we'll all go down together. After his DAR pronouncement, he picked up his phone and made a call. Everyone knew how to play dirty. Once he had made his arrangements, Ethan called Leo. Leo, back off the Mill District situation for now. This guy is ruthless and will stop at nothing. I'm worried you won't be able to handle the fallout. Leo was surprised to get a call from Ethan at this time, and even more surprised by what he said. What's wrong? Just stay out of it. I'll handle it, Ethan said, offering no explanation. Leo knew Ethan's personality. Pressing for answers would be useless, so he didn't. Logic told him to listen to Ethan, to act as if nothing had happened. But for some reason, he suddenly felt the urge to be reckless. Okay, I understand. The moment Ethan hung up, Leo immediately contacted Spike. How are the arrangements going? Leo had no other illusions. He had to win the Mill District redevelopment project. The profit from that single project was more than Rush Sportswear would make in half a year. And from Ethan's words, Leo could tell that he was also in the game now. If that was the case, his own risk was significantly lower. I talked to Gabe. He's on board. The rumor is out. We're just waiting for them to take the bait. Leo gave a few more simple instructions and hung up. Sophia was standing right next to him. He hadn't tried to hide the call from her. She had the good sense not to ask. These two floor plans, which one do you like more? Leo asked, getting back to the task at hand. He was supposed to be looking at apartments with her. The call had been an unexpected interruption. A sly look flashed in Sophia's eyes. She didn't answer directly. They're both nice. What do you think? Then the first one, Leo said excitedly. Okay. The building was near the university, in a suburban area, so the prices were cheap. A unit of over 1,000 square feet cost around $30,000, paid in full. As Leo accepted the keys amidst the realtor's enthusiastic congratulations, Sophia spoke up playfully. By the way, what was it you asked me just now? Leo looked at her, confused. Did I ask her something? He thought back, then said uncertainly, which one do you like more? Sophia snapped her fingers. Then, as Leo stared in astonishment, she said, I like the one next door to you more. Ma'am, she said, turning to the realtor, how much is that one? It wasn't just Leo who was dumbfounded. The realtor was too. She had already been shocked when Leo brought a different girl in the afternoon than he had in the morning. As a woman, she despised his behavior. But as a salesperson, and remembering the phone call she'd received that morning, her face was about to split from smiling. Was she really about to sell 3 units in one day? The one next door is slightly smaller. The realtor began her pitch, but Sophia just waved her hand. I'll take it. I'll pay by card. Sophia was a wealthy woman in her own right. Her business was thriving. With more and more celebrities joining Livewire, the number of active users was exploding, and it was finally generating significant revenue. Leo suddenly realized something was off, but he didn't say anything. Hello, neighbor, Sophia said, dangling her new keys in front of him. Leo looked at her with a serious expression. Hey, beautiful, can I crash in one of your rooms? Sophia's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Nope, nope. Leo threw his hands up in mock surrender. Well, in that case, I'll have no choice but to have someone knock a hole in the wall between our places. Sophia shot him a look, muttering, pervert, then turned and started walking back toward the school on her own. I have a class, so I can't hang out. Leo waved. See ya. Just after Leo and Sophia left, the realtor pulled out her phone and dialed Chloe. Hello. The gentleman from this morning came in and finalized his purchase. He bought the unit you liked. Chloe's heart sank. She took a deep breath. Okay, I'll take the one next to it. The realtor hesitated for a moment before speaking. The gentleman bought Unit 2, Unit 1 has also been sold. Would you be interested in Unit 3? Chloe froze. Was it sold before, or just now? The realtor felt she should probably lie to close the deal more easily. But the words got stuck in her throat. Forget it. Her conscience was nagging at her too much. It was purchased by the beautiful young woman who came in with him. As she expected, the other end of the line fell silent. The realtor sighed and asked cautiously, "Are you still interested?" On the other end of the line, Chloe was biting her lip. She asked, her voice trembling slightly, was her name Sophia-Sue? Yes. I'll be there later to sign the contract. Early Saturday morning, Leo was woken up by the whining of a hairdryer. After muttering a few curses into his pillow, he dragged himself out of bed and sent a good morning text to Sophia. Normally at this hour, Mark and Shane would be dead to the world. Today, however, they were unusually industrious. "Leo, what do you think? My hair looks good, right?" Shane, having just finished blow-drying, was now meticulously applying hair gel. Paired with his sunny smile, he was undeniably the type that was popular with girls. Leo rolled his eyes. "I'm going to recommend a full dorm safety inspection to the school. Get all these hairdryers and stuff confiscated. It's too damn loud." Shane just laughed sheepishly. "Come on, Leo, don't do that. My hair is my life. Today's an exception. I promise I won't wake you up again." Leo had made plans with Chloe for their two groups of roommates to hang out together. That was why Shane and Mark were so excited. Only Chad was completely calm. He had nothing to look forward to because his girlfriend, Autumn Hahn, was already coming along. Their relationship was what you pictured when you thought of college romance. They were practically attached at the hip. Sometimes, he didn't even return to the dorm at night, a fact that made him the envy of his roommates. It was only because Leo was on good terms with the RA that Chad hadn't gotten in trouble. "Leo, I'm heading out. I'll wait for you guys at the school gate," Chad said, pulling on his shoes. After Chad left, Mark finished getting ready. He slung an arm over Shane's shoulders and started whispering, "Shane, my man, we gotta promise not to step on each other's toes this time." Leo couldn't understand what they were talking about, so he decided to ignore it and went to the bathroom to wash up. Including washing his hair, he was done in 5 minutes. When he walked back into the room, he saw an odd sight. Shane was sitting in a chair with a blissful expression while Mark stood behind him, dutifully massaging his shoulders. The scene was so bizarrely harmonious that Leo didn't want to disturb it. He silently got dressed and was about to sneak out when Mark spotted him. "Leo, you leaving?" Leo nodded. "Yeah, you guys carry on." He turned and walked out. Mark and Shane exchanged a look, then simultaneously bolted after him, shouting as they ran. "Leo, you asshole. Don't you dare try to get a head start. You dog, you sure can run fast." Their noisy chase continued all the way to the women's dormitory, where Chloe and her roommates were already waiting. Stacy's boyfriend, Justin Zhang, was there too, trailing behind Stacy like a happy puppy. He gave Leo a wave in greeting. "Leo," Chloe said, linking her arm through his as she explained the day's plan, "we're going to Golden Gardens Park this morning. After lunch, we can go sing karaoke, then grab dinner together before heading back. What do you think?" She had asked him for ideas earlier, but he just told her to decide. Leo was a little surprised, then nodded. It had been a long time since he'd gone to karaoke in the afternoon. Back in the day, it was always a nighttime activity. Since they were all from the same school and had eaten together before, most of them knew each other. Justin and Mark were both the slow-to-warm-up types. They were quiet around people they didn't know well. But once they got comfortable, they were chatterboxes, at least with each other. In front of the girls, they still struggled to string a sentence together. Because there were so many of them, Chloe hadn't driven. They all decided to take the bus. After meeting up with Chad at the school gate, the large group set off. The bus stop was packed with similar crowds of students. This was college life. The moment the weekend hit, no one could sit still. It wasn't too far from the university to the park, only a 20-minute bus ride. On the way, Chloe tugged on Leo's arm. "My dad is going to next week," she said. "He said he might stop by to see us on the way." "Your dad's coming here?" Leo asked, confused. For what he'd heard, Ethan Zhang shouldn't have the time for a casual visit. Chloe shot him a sideways glance. "Why do you sound so scared?" "Scared?" Leo shot back. "What do I have to be scared of?" Chloe pouted, turning to look out the window. Who knows? Leo had already heard from his own dad that Ethan was in a tough spot. As Riverbend's flagship enterprise, any little tremor at the Jiang Corporation sent ripples of rumors throughout the city. It was hard to know how much was true, but his father's information was usually reliable. If he said Ethan was in big trouble, it was definitely big trouble. Hearing that Ethan was coming, Leo lost all motivation for the day's outing. Ethan had warned him before not to get too reckless, a warning Leo hadn't taken seriously. For him to come all this way, Leo highly doubted it was just a casual visit. Do you know why your dad is going out? Chloe shook her head. How would I know? He doesn't talk to me about that stuff. Since she didn't know anything, Leo decided to drop it. He'd have to face whatever was coming. But for some reason, he really didn't want to meet Ethan anywhere near the university. Your dad is a very busy man, he suggested to Chloe. We can't let him waste so much time on us. Why don't we go to L? Instead, he added, besides, I've been wanting to take you to see the Griffith Observatory. Chloe's eyes twinkled, and she nodded with a smile. Okay, then it's settled. Ask your dad when he'll be in L. And we'll go a day early. Chloe nodded and pulled out her phone to call Ethan, but it rang and rang with no answer. He's probably in a meeting. I'll try again later. Ethan was always busy. Leo knew that. Okay, no problem. When they got off at the stop for Golden Gardens, Leo saw a sea of people, most of them students. While it wasn't as insane as a holiday weekend in later years, it was still packed. Even so, the crowd didn't dampen their spirits. Chloe held onto Leo's arm, while Justin and Chad each held their girlfriend hands. The remaining four, Shane, Mark, and Chloe's two other roommates, Yara and June, looked a bit awkward. Shane, at least, was shameless enough to crack a few jokes to entertain the girls. Only Mark trudged along with his head down, wanted to talk to them, but not daring to. Leo saw him and muttered, pathetic. Mark, who was walking close by, heard him and shot him a glare. What are you looking at? Leo said, not bothering to lower his voice. You know why I said it so loud? It was for you to hear. Mark fell silent. He couldn't even argue. Leo was right.